es mañana, yo estaré lejos, muy lejos de ti. Bésame, bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame, bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame, bésame mucho.
We're ready for a count. Oh, yeah, we're ready for a countdown. Thank you.
All right, 30 seconds. Seconds.
All right. Good evening. In compliance with Chapter 551 Open Meetings of the Texas Government Code, I call to order an information session of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Thursday, September 14th, 2023 at 6:17 p.m. A quorum of the board is physically present at the AISD Central Office to conduct this meeting. This meeting is streaming live on AISD TV and Apple TV. It's also being broadcast on cable channel 22 through Spectrum, Astound Broadband, and on channel 99 through AT&T UVerse. Closed captioning in English is available on these platforms for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. We truly apologize for starting late. Thank you for your patience. We also have a couple of trustees who are out tonight who are at the Mexican American School Board Association conference. So we know that they are advancing their skills and they are with us in spirit. So thank you all very much. So we will move to the approval of the agenda. Secretary Boswell, do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Hunter to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. All right, Secretary Boswell, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and pledge to the Texas flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa, una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Honro a la bandera de Texas. Te honro, bandera de Texas. Te juro lealtad, Texas. Un estado bajo Dios, uno e indivisible.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so you all, we're going to really be testing y'all's patience tonight because not only do we start a little late, which is I think the latest we've started probably this whole year, so I apologize, but we actually are going to be going into a very quick 10-minute executive session. So before we move into public comment tonight, the board will briefly adjourn the meeting into executive session to discuss pending legal issues regarding the TEA proposed order, which will also be discussed tonight. We will now recess the open meeting for only 10 minutes, I promise you, at 6:20 p.m. and move into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, 551.0821, and 551.071. We expect to be in exec session for about 10 minutes, and we will return to the dais when completed. Thank you very much.
20 seconds.
Welcome back. We will now reconvene the open meeting at 6:32 p.m. Thank you for your patience. So next is an opportunity for the public to share comments with the board. This time allows speakers to comment publicly on any topic of their choosing. We have time for up to 60 speakers. As a reminder, the district continues to provide time during the regular voting meetings of the board to hear from the public about agenda items for consideration and vote. This is an opportunity for the board to take part in listening to our public. While we wish we could respond or provide feedback, we are required to limit our questions to requests for clarification or follow up directly with the administration. Members of the public wishing to participate in the public comment portion of our meeting called a dedicated AISD phone line in advance of the meeting to audio record their remarks. We will now play the recorded messages for public comment, so please listen carefully.
Dear Board of Trustees and Superintendent Seguda, I'm calling this evening on behalf of the students receiving special education services in this district. We've heard a few of the trustees saying that special education is getting better or that the district is doing a good job. I implore you, if you believe that, to come walk a day in my shoes as a special education student. Come meet the teachers who tell me I'm weird, strange, or an inconvenience to them. Meet the teacher who wouldn't allow me to sit in class yesterday after returning from being out sick and in the hospital, simply because her classroom policies don't align with my IEP and accommodations. And I didn't have an immediate plan as to how I was going to make up a quiz that requires me to sit for 3 hours straight. See how kids look at me when the sophomore AP pulls me, a senior, from class. Dear Board of Trustees and Superintendent Seguda, I'm calling this evening on behalf of the students receiving special education services in this district. We've heard a few of the trustees saying that special education is getting better or that the district is doing a good job. I implore you, if you believe that, to come walk a day in my shoes as a special education student. Come meet the teachers who tell me I'm weird, strange, or an inconvenience to them. Meet the teacher who wouldn't allow me to sit in class yesterday after returning from being out sick and in the hospital, simply because her classroom policies don't align with my IEP and accommodations. And I didn't have an immediate plan as to how I was going to make up a quiz that requires me to sit for 3 hours straight. See how kids look at me when the sophomore AP pulls me, a senior, from class after the teacher loudly announces I need to go with her, because I'm told my actual AP isn't experienced enough to handle me. I invite you to come spend the day with me to see how hard we work, only to be denied what's written in our IEPs. The struggles, the frustrations, the oppression, the tears. This is more than backlogged evaluations getting completed. This is our lives and our education. It's not getting better for students who already have IEPs. Mindsets need to change. Action plans need to be in place, and students need to receive their IEP supports. It takes a village. The villagers haven't all shown up for us yet. The TEA proposal does not face issues students are facing, and a full takeover is imminent. As a student advocate,
Texas Education Agency considered placing Austin ISD Special Education Program into conservatorship based upon systemic failures and lack of effective resources. Murchison Middle School teacher Ms. C and several members of the MMS community are concerned about the democratic process and hope that TEA's decision to allow Austin ISD board members to monitor the situation will improve MMS life skills program. Before the current school year, administrators established a framework for success. Respect, integrity, and accountability were hoped for, but systemic failures resulted in inadequate implementation of the 3 pillars for special education, which are inclusive practices, high-level instruction, compliance, and evaluation. Teachers are resigning, and teacher aides are struggling to gain support. Thank you for analyzing curriculum and compliance issues for MMS life skills students. Vicki Kuthrell, contracted teacher for Austin ISD.
I'm calling in regards to the TEA special education proposal, which usurps power from the board and limits their ability to advocate for issues. We, the constituents, voted for the trustees to represent us and our students and do not want them limited in their role. Additionally, this proposal will not fix the problems facing special education. It is more far-reaching than just evaluations. As a parent with open corrective action cases, as outlined in the TEA proposal, I have concerns about the district's ability to remedy my cases, knowing that I am still experiencing the same issues, and our campus is unwilling to work collaboratively to resolve these issues. The deadlines and action items outlined in the plan are not realistic, and the limiting of the district's ability to appeal or take action is alarming. This plan sets the district up for a full takeover rather than supporting the district's special education department to succeed in addressing students' needs. I am not in support of the district agreeing to the TEA proposal. This is Sarah McKenna, parent. Thank you.
TEA proposed a sped conservator, not a takeover. The proposal the board is reviewing is far worse than a sped conservator. The board gives up rights and duties and its ability to appeal while agreeing to a management team at any point TEA determines. We are in this mess partly because the board gave up its rights and duties before, to Carl Azalde. This proposal amounts to a secret takeover and ensures a full takeover with no ability to appeal. The proposal requires the democratically elected board turn its back on students with disabilities, our most vulnerable. Please show me that no board member I voted or campaigned for would do that. If you turn your backs on our children, we cannot guarantee you will be able to count on our support in the future. The truth is we haven't improved, and a takeover under this proposal will be swift. We need the board focused on accountability, not catchphrases in board meetings. You know what I'm talking about. We are stronger and better together, and with our ability to fight and appeal should that become necessary. Community advocates, parents, children, and special education advocates do not want to be in a position to say, I told you so. You cannot agree to this proposal. You do not have community support.
Yes, my name is Angie Pulido. My address is I have a grandson going to Merkinson Middle School, life skills, and I think that such education should have life skills, 2 teachers there, and more support for them, like TAs to assist the curriculum for the students, and also for the TAs to teach the students where they're at, and also to have them involved in activities like pepper rallies for the football games and other sorts of things for them to also participate on that. My concern is also for them to have the teachers that have a lot of help on all the special education. They need more support and for the students. This is at Merkinson Middle School. I see a lot of that needs to be done, and just.
My name is Lino Pulido, and I would like to ask that the life skills groups be, or special education groups be, have more teachers' aides and more teachers for every student. That way, it would be helpful for them and maybe for the parents too at home. And events, I would like for them to participate on like pep rallies and stuff like that too. That way they can see more or less what's going on in that school. Would that help? Where are they going to be? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm an AISD parent, and I would like to express my wishes to the board to say no to the TEA's current proposal of a plan for an alternative path to conservatorship. I do hope that we can ask the TEA for a different alternative that is something that we can accomplish. That is my request for today's board meeting. Thank you so much. Bye.
This is Sharon Bain. I'm the parent of a current Bowie student and a 2022 AISD graduate. From the conversation at the special meeting last week, it seems clear that the board must push back on at least parts of the TEA's proposal while it still has the ability to appeal the agency's decisions. I urge you to do what you can to preserve the autonomy of the board that voters elected and continue the forward momentum to do what is the most important task, improving the services provided to our special education students. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tricia Mitchell-Kim. I am an Austin ISD alumna and parent of a student at Anderson High School. I am calling in defense and support of special education students and families, as well as Austin ISD teachers, staff and administrators who have already begun good faith efforts to remedy our special education deficiencies. Please vote no on the TEA SPED proposed agreed order. As a stakeholder, I support this elected Board of Trustees in turning down this proposal, retaining maximum autonomy, control over our own process and problems, and the right to appeal future TEA actions. Thank you.
My name is Lisa Flores. I'm a parent and longtime disability advocate. I've spent countless hours volunteering in various advisory committees for the district to lend my expertise. I have a few points. Please be honest with the public. The backlog long predated COVID. The issues are not solely related to valuations. This is not authentic communication to just keep pointing out quantity and not quality. Considering the almost 539 evaluations per month, the rise in the overall populations of students with IEPs has only gone up by about 1,000 students. This denotes a potential issue with the evaluations, and the rate of do not qualify needs scrutiny. I need a review to claim that things are better. They aren't. There's just more pressure on documentation looking compliant. The changes implemented have not yet made their way into practice yet. Community groups like CC are having to help people needing support that they cannot find at their campuses or districts. What does authentic family engagement look like? More of this or better? Please ask the TEA to consider a counter-proposal of implementing every item in their proposal except the forfeiture of any appeals and accepting Lone Star governance. Thank you.
Okay, so this concludes public comment. Trustees, are there any questions or clarifications? Okay. All right, so thank you. As a reminder to the public, please feel free to share any general comments or questions with the board by email at trustees@austinisd.org. So now we're on to the President's Report. Tomorrow is the first day of Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs from September 15th to October 15th. This is an opportunity to reflect on the diverse history and lived experience of Latinos who live in Austin and the United States. Latino history is American history, and I'm really proud to be part of a district that celebrates and recognizes our students and staff's different cultures. We are also very proud to share that our own interim superintendent, Matias Segura, has been named a finalist for the Habla con Orgullo Awards for Latino elected or appointed officials. That's great. Voting is happening now on the Habla website, and winners will be announced next Thursday. So while the board continues to discuss meeting efficiency and considers the proposed order from the Texas Education Agency, we want to make the public aware of some changes that are just being considered for the October board meetings. Starting that month, we will no longer hold the pledge. We are considering no longer holding the Pledge of Allegiance during meetings or doing partner and staff recognitions as part of the board meeting. We haven't really had a full board discussion on this, but we are going to be talking about it. So we're just kind of giving you all a heads up. That these conversations are going to be happening. Instead, recognitions of our wonderful staff, we're not going to forget about you, but recognitions are still going to happen. But they're going to be held as a reception prior to our meetings. This will allow trustees and partners a greater opportunity to interact with one another, take pictures, and all of that fun celebration that we like to do. We will also look at providing recorded presentations of some informational items that can be shared on our website for the public, and we'll try this out next month with our presentation by our auditor, Gibson Consulting, over the procurement audit. We will continue to discuss as a governance team on other ways to shorten meetings and share additional information at future meetings and other ways to increase access and transparency of district activities and information. So just want to clarify again, we have not made any decisions on anything, but we are going to consider these. And the reason I'm mentioning this today is because we want to start doing some of this in October. So next month, the board will also hold a public discussion on the October 12th board information session on the potential next steps for the district superintendent search. This is a preliminary conversation to help guide that work over the coming months, and we need to hear feedback from our community, staff, and students early to help us prepare for this important work. So finally, we want to invite all families and students to the Austin ISD Showcase coming up on Saturday, September 23rd. The event will be held at the Palmer Events Center from 9 a.m. to noon. The event not only includes great information about the wide range of programs and opportunities in Austin ISD, but also community resources and partners, free school supplies and books, free vaccinations, free haircuts, and student performances and demonstrations. The district is providing free shuttle services from Burnett Middle School, Covington, Dobie, Gus Garcia, Lamar, Martin, and Paredes parking lots. You can also get a free bus pass that day by signing up early. Well, thank you, City of Austin. By signing up early, or Cat Metro, yes. By signing up early on the AISD website at www.austinISD.org/showcase. So thank you. Next is the superintendent's report. So Mr. Segura.
Great. Thank you, President, senior members of the board. It's been a busy week, and I have two brief updates for you. Our first update is about accountability. On Tuesday, September 12th, TEA announced a delay in releasing the 2023 A through F academic accountability ratings. You may recall that last week we shared with you a presentation about STAR redesign, as well as revisions to how accountability scores are calculated. This includes changes to formulas and cut scores. This week, TEA determined that it is best to delay the final rule for the accountability manual, which in turn delays the issuance of ratings. Ratings are what we know as the A through F system, where each campus and the district gets a letter grade for their performance. TEA will conduct further analysis of the growth data to inform cut scores in Domain 2A, which is academic growth, and Domain 3, closing the gaps. The new expected release of letter grades is at the end of October. My second update this evening is that earlier today, the City of Austin Council approved our interlocal agreement. The ILA has been a lot of work for a lot of people, both internally and with our external partners. The ILA allows us to efficiently develop the 2022 bond program that this board and the voters of Austin and ISD approved last November by 74%, I might add. I would like to thank the City of Austin for this continued partnership. We are going to get going on and building some amazing spaces for our students and staff here at Austin ISD, and just so excited that this was able to get across the finish line. And I can't reinforce, I can't communicate how important this ILA is. It will allow us to build efficiently, build all the things that we need to support our students and staff, and do it in a way that is mindful of our budgets. So thank you for that, and that concludes my report out.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Austin City Council. So are there any questions or clarifications? All right. So we will now move to our information reports and updates. Mr. Segura, would you please introduce the next item?
Yes, absolutely. Tonight we will have Dr. Brandon Thurston and Mr. Jeremiah Willis share the Mendez and Third Future 1882 update. We have a presentation, so as they walk up, Jacob will get that on our screens for us.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you all for having us today. We're excited to share with you an update of our 2023 going into 24 school year. We are 1 year into the model, and so we'll just kind of walk through the presentation, and feel free to stop us for any questions. First of all, I want to stop and say congratulations to Mr. Willis, who is off to a strong start at Mendez. I was there today, and I'll be there tomorrow, and I was there a few weeks ago, and the campus is tight. So if you have not had a chance to, please come and visit. Nothing's really changed on this slide. We have one mission, and that's to make sure that every kid at Mendez, every kid at Third Future has great instruction, and that they have options outside of the school when they do leave school, that they can read on grade level and they're ready for the real world. I know that the board requested some of our funding information, and so that top number there, 3.1 is going to be the local funding for the most part, and then our grant funding is 1.2, and that includes Title I and some other $1882. I'll let Mr. Willis talk to us about enrollment.
Yes, before Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. Before I get started, I can't take all the credit for sure. Power's in the team. my AP, Mr. Rain, of course, our staff members. Everyone has worked extremely hard to help get Mendez off to a good start. So I just want to make sure that I recognize all of our staff members and all of our teachers before I kind of dive into this. So if you take a look here, this is just giving you a rundown of our enrollment from the previous year to our current year. We are not happy about this. We know that we have decreased in enrollment. We're doing everything in our power, flyer walks, social media, to try to increase enrollment. We recognize that that's not where we want to be. However, we are working very hard to, of course, try to increase enrollment this year as well as the coming years. We have 70 of our 94 eighth graders are returning from last year. We had 98 of our students attend quarter 5, which is our summer school. I'm sorry, we had 98 that were supposed to attend, but out of the 98, 87 came. And then if you look at our retained students, those are the students that we retained per grade level. However, 7th grade, 4 of those students did return, and in our 8th grade, we had 2 of those 11 students return this current year.
As far as our instructional staff, because of our enrollment this year, we did have to make some adjustments. And so last year, we had 30 instructional staff members, and that includes teachers, learning coaches, teacher apprentices, and things of that nature. We had 6 terminations, 5 resignations, and 3 promotions at the very end of the school year, including Mr. Willis and 2 teachers who are now assistant principals at other campuses in the Third Future School network. This year, we're at 28 teachers, learning coaches coming back to the team. 13 of those folks said, hey, this is the place for us, and we're going to come back. And unfortunately, because of our enrollment, we had to terminate 5 team members due to a reduction in force.
Here we have our map data, and this is not new data that we presented in June. This just gives you a breakdown of some of our populations, our specific populations. So here we have MAP, which is one of our leading indicators, before STAR to help us inform instruction. Here we have a breakdown of our Hispanic and our non-Hispanic population. And as you can see, according to the data, they have all outperformed the U.S. average.
And you see those breakdowns for the emergent bilinguals as well as our students who are receiving special programs. All right, let's talk about STAR data. And we know that there is a delay on that, so this is just kind of some raw data, but it'll give you an indication of where we are. So on the left side of the screen there, we see the 2022 scores, and on the right side, we see the 2023 scores. And we can already see most drastically the improvement in math. I mean, math just kicked all types of good stuff. So excited about the growth that kiddos did in math. And then, although reading, we did not do as strong, I am very proud of the team for the adjustments we made last year, and we made a year's worth of growth in that second semester. And Mr. Willis will speak later about how the campus is continuing to take that data, use it, and tailor instruction and course time, instructional time for needs of kiddos. Of course, the accountability system, Domain 1 is pass or fail. Domain 2 is about getting the growth. And Domain 3, those subpopulations. So there are our component scores and our scaled scores. I want to draw your attention to Domain 2A, academic growth. That's where we really want to shout the victory for our kiddos. We know that kids at Mendez were well behind. The campus had been struggling for a number of years. So proficiency is not, of course, where we want it, but the next slide will detail that in 7th grade and 8th grade, 57% of our students, 57% of them grew an entire performance level, okay? So what that means is kids grew from did not meet to meets, or meets to masters, or in some cases, from approaches to masters, or did not meet to meets. That is also not including all the kids who grew from a low meets to a high meets, or a low approaches to a high approaches. So at least 57% of those kiddos, of those tests, grew a significant level on their proficiency. So shout out to the kiddos at Mendez and all of the teachers there. Domain 3 is about closing those gaps with those subpopulations. And so I'm really proud of our emergent bilingual students, and we look forward to seeing their growth and their finalized results as well.
Here we have our key actions. 1 through 6 should look familiar. Those are similar to last year's. However, based on the data that we received just throughout the year, and of course on STAR, we have added a 7th key action, which is a reading initiative. So we have now built in time in our master schedule to focus on specific reading skills to help increase their growth in that specific subject.
Ms. Wilson? Just really quickly, so you know that we have a dyad model, and the dyad model is where kids get an elective every single day, but they also get an additional experience, and that could be photography or dance or music. So we've taken just a little bit of that time and we've repurposed it because we know we want kids to have those experiences, but we've got to really make sure the kids are strong readers. And so those are the kind of adjustments that we do year to year and even month to month or week to week to make sure that we're doing everything that we can for kiddos.
These are just some highlights from quarter 5, our summer PDs as well as the beginning of the year. Again, just kind of speaking on our summer school, we had 87 of our 95 students attend quarter 5. We also spent a week in West Texas where we took our administrative staff to just sharpen their instructional eye. We calibrated as an admin team to just make sure that we're on the same page. Again, just sharpening our eye on instruction. We also spent 3 days in Beaumont, where we also did a lot of training with our teachers around the model, around instruction. And then we also included and had an opportunity to have some of our new staff come on board in the summer and just get an idea of Third Futures model, some of the expectations. We even got to give them a head start on just what the coaching and some of those things look like well before the school year started. And then, of course, we also hosted a back-to-school event. We had three sessions to just accommodate some of our families. So we had a 10, a 2, and a 6 where they came to the school, toured the school, got a chance to meet the teachers. We kind of got to set some of the expectations and just the way we do things at Mendez.
I just want to talk a little bit about the training that admin and teachers got this summer. So this summer, Mr. Willis, his assistant principals, 2 or 3 of his teacher leaders, as well as the other 9 campuses in our network. We all flew to West Texas, and we have a campus there of about 1,500 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and they had summer school. I think they have about maybe 500 kids in summer school. And so principals and assistant principals and teacher leaders were able to go in real time, see the instructions, see the instructional model. Mr. Willis is one of our dynamite instructional leaders, and so he actually had a group of other principals in the network, so he's training them, and so across the network we are calibrated, so we are laser focused on instruction. Then we took 300 teachers to East Texas, to Beaumont. We have 3 brand new campuses there, and Mendez joined us as the veteran campus in this unit, and we trained them on instructional engagement, preparation, learning objectives, how to teach. So I'm really proud of the PD that we did this summer and Mr. Willis leading his team. We have a few instructional adjustments that we are making and we'll continue to make, and I'll let Mr. Willis speak to those as well.
So just once again, just using the data that we received from STAR and of course from MAP, we know that our students struggle with reading. And so we have a reading success class that our students go to each and every day. Myself and my AP, my team, my partner, Mr. Rain, we have identified those struggle skills, those struggle TEAC areas in reading where we spend a little bit more time just kind of breaking them down and reinforcing what those skills are, identifying some of the misconceptions, the roadblocks, the areas that they struggle in, and we reinforce that skill, of course, along with their normal instruction time that they have in ELA. We give them additional time in that. Again, just using the data that we have now from STAR and from MAP. Along with that, we also still do have a success math class where we also get the chance to kind of reinforce some of those skills. So our students made a lot of growth in math, but we know that we still have a lot of improvement there as well. Dr. T has already kind of spoken on just some of our staffing changes. Most of that, again, well, all of that, again, was just due to enrollment not being where we would like it to be. And then, of course, this is our second year. This is our second year in the model now. And so now we get to spend a lot of time just really, really, really sharpening our instructional eye, getting to the meat of the lesson, really breaking down that TEAC and coaching teachers on how to break down that TEAC and plan for those misconceptions and truly assess where students are. As we look ahead, enrollment is still, it's still something that we recognize that we would like to increase. We are still coaching on our multiple response strategies, and that is just where we are every 4 minutes, we're asking students to do something. It's not ever going to be a time where the teacher is just spending the majority of the time talking. We're always assessing, getting data to help inform instruction. What do they know? What do they not know? What do I need to reteach? What do I need to overly emphasize? Again, we're using data for those math and reading success classes. We have already started our athletic season, so football and volleyball is what's going on now. We actually have also started cheer much sooner than we did last year as well. And then, of course, we have our band. We still have band, and we're still planning for band concerts, of course, one per semester. So one towards the end of this semester as well as the end of the school year.
So all in all, we are really, really proud of our growth from last school year. We are looking forward to making those adjustments for this school year, and we are open to answering any questions that you may have. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. All right, trustees, do you have any questions? Vice President Foster.
So, welcome. It's good to see you all again. I'm excited about your areas of growth and, the measurable areas of growth and, your many successes. And on a sort of collegial or personal level, y'all are infectious. Like, you come with excitement, and I would like to, sort of be around folk that exude the sort of obvious love for education and for our students that you all show. I also appreciate transparency. Student attrition, teacher, what do we call it, turnover / replacement, whatever we want to call it. That's something that I've been curious about, and to kind of clearly see that indicated is helpful for me. And it raises questions. And I like y'all enough to just be straightforward, and the question is to say, okay, here are the things that are going well. I like to understand how they're going well, and I also always like to guard against them going well because of something that we don't like to see, if this makes any sense. So I guess the questions that arise for me around student attrition, how do you guard against the chance? And I haven't combed your data or just really looked through your scores to sort of break them out this way. But one of the frequent criticisms of schools working the model as you're working the model is that what appears to be growth and what appears to be improvement is often the attrition of the least well-performing students. Does this make sense? I don't know that that's the case because I can't see the data in that way. But the students not being served by your school or our school, who were being served by our school and now being served somewhere, you said that of the retained students, I think in one category, in one grade level, there was 11 retained students, but only 2 of them returned, is that correct? And then another one, there was 13 retained students, but 4 of them returned. So this, you feel the concern that this raises for me. So I'd love for you to speak to that for just a minute.
Yeah, and so first of all, allow me to clarify our retention policy, okay? So kiddos who do not make 0.7 years worth of growth or attend at least 90% of the school year, or if they don't attend summer school, they will be retained, okay? So we want to hold kids accountable, hold ourselves accountable, and we know that kids need school, and we also want to be in compliance with state law. Concerning those kiddos who did not come, we're actually tracking those kiddos down even as we speak. We actually found another one, I think, last week who was enrolled at a high school in the district. And so we've gotten that kid, we've made contact with that campus, and that kid's back on the campus. And so it's really a matter of changing the culture. So it's not us running those kids away. We want those kids, we need those kids. We've expressed that to those families. In fact, I'm the one who met with those families this summer, and so I do know that some of those kids have withdrawn to go to some other charter schools that are not beholden to the grade placement meeting that we held, and maybe they were promoted to the 8th grade or the 9th grade, and others I suspect are still at other high schools or other schools in the district, and we're tracking those kiddos down. We've had very, very few record requests, and so that's what makes it kind of tricky on our end, but we are tracking those kids down as best we can.
So then the only follow-up question, I try to keep us moving here. In terms of introspection with regards to the model.
Sure.
The fact that this larger than typical number of students are choosing to leave, what are the learnings from that, or when you deal with the texture of that, what comes up?
Yeah, honestly, the academic growth was not the measure that kept most students from being promoted to the next grade level. So it wasn't for the lack of the students being able to learn or the lack of instruction. The problem is we have a struggle with kids coming to school. That's a culture that we are breaking at Mendez, that we're changing at Mendez, coming to school. So in fact, anytime I'm visiting the campus, instead of getting there right at 7:45, I spend the first 15 minutes just kind of walking the campus or driving around the campus, and there are kids in the neighborhood who are walking the neighborhood, okay? We see that, and we know that we need kids in the building. So we need your partnership with that to further impress upon the community on the 4-4 at Mendez. We need you at school every single day. I think that's just been a culture shift, and one that we've certainly combated since we've gotten to Mendez.
So how does that relate to the student choosing to leave the school altogether?
Well, if the student does come to school, then they will be in the grade level that we have assigned them, and so that may or may not be optimal to them, and so they may want the option to go to another school to continue with the behaviors that they have had or their attendance patterns that have led them to be in that grade level. So for example, if a kid's in 8th grade and they're having immense attendance problems, 9 times out of 10, that didn't just start in 8th grade. And we promoted that kid, and so they're used to that. Hey, I don't have to come to school and I can still be promoted. Well, we need to break that culture because we know kids are not learning and our schools are struggling because of that. So on us, here's what we are doing. We have a Habit of Success store. Every other week, Mr. Willis is buying Chick-fil-A, or he is saying that you can wear your Crocs to school, or you can wear a hoodie, or you can touch Dr. T's bald head next time he comes to campus to get kids to come to school. So it's not that we don't have that concern, because we certainly do have that concern, but the balance is holding kids accountable so that we don't, and ourselves accountable, so that we don't slip back into the pattern of, well, just come just enough, and then you can go to the next grade level and still not be prepared.
That's actually super helpful, and it's provocative for me because there is a difference in the Third Futures model, and I think there's things we can learn from it, and I think there's room for a dialogue there. So there's some things that you're saying that I'm like, and then there's some things that I'm excited about, but I think what's most helpful for us is this very honest and transparent sort of back and forth, so that in the end, any student who resides within our boundaries is being well served by our district. So thank you all.
Absolutely.
Trustees, any other questions? Trustee Kaufman.
Good evening. Thank you again for your hard work and for coming to report to us tonight. Appreciate it. I did have a couple of real basic questions. One is on the budget page. I'm not familiar with what the PPR stands for.
And I knew
fantasy football, that's points per reception, but I don't think that's what you're.
I would love to get you those details, and in fact, I don't want to misspeak or misrepresent the network. I'm the instructional guy. Everybody knows that about me, and so I'll work with our finance team, and I can get you a better breakdown of our financial report.
You labeled it as local money, but I just trying to understand what the PPR means. Thank you. And then following up a little bit on Trustee or Vice President Foster's question around this. This is not a question for you. I guess this is a question for Interim Superintendent Segura. Like, do we know where those kids went who didn't return back to Mendez? Is that a collaboration right now between, like, with the campus administration and the network to figure out where the kids are?
So one of, Trustee Kaufman, one of the things that we started to do the last time that their future visited us was to begin to track what we could. I mean, if they go to private or if they go outside the district, obviously we lose them. Yeah. But the ones that transferred within AISD, we do have that information.
Okay. Great, thank you. And then there was disaggregation among student groups for some of the data, but I didn't see special education on there. How many students are currently receiving special education services at Mendez, and how was the projected performance of those students?
Trustee Kaufman, I don't have those exact numbers. Mr. Willis, do you know the exact caseload there at Mendez?
I don't know the exact caseload.
That's something else that we can certainly follow with you on, Trustee Kaufman. And we've really tried to do some projections, but cautiously, pending the cut scores and the changes, with the system from the state. And so we haven't delved too deeply into that at this point.
Okay, I would be very interested in getting that data, Mr. Segura, to know how did the students receiving special education services do this year compared to last year and compared to other student groups, please. Okay, thank you.
Trustees, any other questions?
I have.
Yes, Trustee Hunter.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for the report. I guess what I have is sort of in between where Dr. Foster started and where I'm going. To see those numbers go down, I'm a teacher at heart, and I love some of the things that y'all do, right? But again, I guess I have to say that there is a bridge to be built, and I think that would help with those numbers. Because I guess my grandfather would say, you can drive the nail, but what good is it if you split the plank, right? So yes, we got through who we got through, but why did we lose who we lost? Why are kids roaming the neighborhood, right? This is where a lot of those kids are getting their primary medical care, their primary meals. So what is it about, why are they outside the building? So I would encourage the district and our partners to really do some thinking about that. And Assistant Superintendent Segura knows what I'm gonna say. The people who can solve the problem are the people closest to the problem. Ask the kids. A lot of times we don't wanna ask students why, because honestly, they just don't know, right? But we can say, why are you not in class? Why are you not going to school? And the unfortunate thing about middle school is they will give you the unvarnished truth. You will not like it. It may even hurt a little bit. But I think that's a really good place to start with our kids. Why are you walking around the neighborhood? You could be in a nice, cool class, hopefully cool class. You could be getting a snack, or you could be in art or PE or music or whatever. So I really would encourage us to talk to those people who are closest to the problem. I'm happy to see the scores. I have pulled up, I'll share this with Dr. Kaufman, pulled up the scores, and I'm looking at the disaggregation. And the way I like to disaggregate that data using the Texas Student Assessment Portal is economically disadvantaged, emergent bilingual, ESL, special education, and then through the ethnicities. And so I'm sure you've looked at that, or you will look at that data and see that there are some groups that are truly, though the overall number is really beautiful, there's still some segments there that really can use some more support. And so I just want to continue thinking about those things in our partnership as we move forward. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustees, any other questions? Trustee Boswell.
I have a couple. Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues for your questions. Thank you for joining us again, and congratulations on the beginning of the year. Yeah, I really want to emphasize that we really appreciate the effort to disaggregate that map data, and it helps us really get that complete picture, and really want to echo Trustee Hunter's point about doing that with our STAR data. When you bring that to us, that's extremely helpful.
Yes,
to help us see how it compares to our other schools too. So
Sure.
Thank you for that. Really appreciate, want to share some appreciation of your back to school event and making sure there were multiple times for families. I think that's something that we don't always do. So thank you for just recognizing that and supporting that. And really congratulations on that growth. It is definitely worth celebrating, so thank you for that. I want to lean in a little more into that enrollment, and I know the target initially in the initial agreement was 305. And so we didn't get there last year, and we're once again not there. And just want to know kind of what the strategies are to make sure you're reaching out to kids and you know, finding out why people who are leaving, that turnover, kind of why people who are leaving, and what kind of support you might need from us, or celebration or communication, and what's happening, kind of what that looks like.
Sure. And
on the
so
ground.
I'll let Mr. Willis kind of take the lead on some things that we've done to recruit those students, and then I'll talk about next steps.
So we've continued to try to hit social media pretty heavy. We do have a TikTok page, very popular. Going live. I've gone live on there over the summer, just updating families on upcoming events, as well as Facebook, just various events that are coming up, just giving them information on games that are coming up, on reminders about dress code, academics, all those different things. We've done flyer walks. We did flyer walks in the summer. We also did them throughout the school year last year, where we actually met as a team, as a staff. I think we had anywhere from, 5 to 7 flyer walks, where we kind of broke down the community, hit certain areas, had flyers, just like a one-pager, just a little bit about Mendez and Third Future, our partnership, and those things. We actually got a lot of our parent information this year, so I was sending out blasts and emails. We've also got talking points where we can send out blasts via text message and phone calls, just on various things. So those are some of the things that we're trying.
And as we move forward, Trustee Hunter, to your point, we're trying to talk to the kiddos. And so last year we had a 7th grader who led our student recruitment efforts, and he went viral on TikTok. And so I know that Mr. Willis and his team are working on something very, very comparable for this school year. You know, the ugly truth is that this was a trend that we kind of stepped into. At Mendez, it's one that we are working very strongly to turn around. But here's our promise to you, that no matter how many kids we do have at Mendez, it will be the best instruction those kids get.
Thank you for that. And I think, thank you for bringing that financial data to us as well. And I think we need to really look at being good stewards of our resources. And I know some of that is state funding, the grant funding. Some of that is extra funding as part of the 1882 partnership. But I think it's also important to say, with that low enrollment, we're looking at about $23,000 per student, including that grant funding, and about $16,700 just with the PPR funds. So we have to really make sure that we're being good stewards. So I think it's understanding that enrollment and those trends are helpful to us. Sure. and kind of what's being done with that. So thank you for that. Another thing that is part of our agreement is attendance. And I know that's not part of your presentation, but I know the goal that was set was 96%. I know last year it was 86%. I know that's not unique to Mendez. I know that's something we're seeing district-wide, statewide, nationwide, post-COVID. And we know that kids who aren't in school, as you said, aren't kids who are learning. So really appreciate the efforts to find kids and make sure they're in the building, and give them a great reason to be in the building. and wonder if you have a sense so far this year kind of where you might be. And it's possible you don't have that, so.
We don't have that number this evening,
Okay.
but that's something that we can certainly include among our follow-up items.
Thank you for that. And then likewise, the percentage also in our agreement was suspensions, homeschool suspensions. And I know we've talked about in past, the discipline data has been something you've shared with that in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, and removals. And I know last year it was about 25% of the population at the school. And I know in-school suspension, that there's a way for students to continue learning, that they go and they're supervised and continue with the teachers who have that ability in their classroom. But do you have a sense of, I know last year you said people were learning the systems, right?
Sure.
And you were hoping those numbers would go down. Do you have a sense of that yet? Just making sure our kids are in class as much as they can be, so they can be learning as well as they can be?
I'll let Mr. Willis talk to that.
Yes, much better than last year at this point. I don't have the specific number to give you, but from where we were early on dealing with behavior, some of the behavior things and suspension things, it's like night and day. Yeah, I anticipate that number to be much lower than it was. We had a much slower pace as far as suspensions and behavior things this year.
Good. Well, we'll see you guys, I know, in a couple more months.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll look forward to hearing about that and the
we'll have
rest
that
of it
data
when
for
you're
you.
back. Thank you so much.
Trustee Whitley Chu.
Right. Hi, I wanted to ask more about your policy about retaining students.
Sure.
And so you're talking about a little bit about the purpose of that policy. Could
Yes,
you
ma'am.
talk to me about that some more?
Yes, ma'am. So the purpose of it is no social promotion. No social promotion. So just because I am in 7th grade this year doesn't mean that I automatically go to 8th grade, because we know that that does a disservice to kids. It sends them through the system. They're seeing 8th grade standards or 7th grade standards or 9th grade standards, and they cannot read, and they cannot write. They cannot do math. And so it's our approach and philosophy that kids have to show their academic growth to go to the next grade level. We also know that growth is coupled with their attendance, and so we couple those things in our retention policy as well. So the kids who miss more than 85% of the school year have to come to summer school, or they're retained. Kids who don't grow at least 0.7 years worth of growth on the MAP assessment by the end of the year, and most kids do that at December, okay? Most of our future kids grow at least 0.7 by December. So by the end of the year, if they're not growing 0.7, then they will be retained, because we don't want to send kiddos on to the next grade level and continue to have that negative cycle of kids behind. They're frustrated because they don't know the material. They don't want to come to school because they are behind, and so we do have to rectify that.
And is there any advantage to your data of retaining students? Do they then retake the 7th grade STAR again, for example, if they are?
Yes, and so they will take the 7th grade STAR again, and we'll have that comparative data. I will tell you, as far as a network, the schools that share in our network year after year, their proficiency gap is decreasing. And so student by student data, no ma'am, I don't think I have that with me, but just year over year for campuses who stand the model, the proficiency for that campus will catch up with those campuses that are performing well. And so we have seen that.
And what, are you aware of any of so a big reason that not retaining students has become, I think, more of a widespread public policy is the increase in the dropout rate. So we have a bunch of kids that we can't find.
Mm-hmm. So again, we're working with the district to track those kiddos. Again, at least 1 or 2 of those kids have been in other Austin ISD campuses, and they've later found the paperwork, and they've sent those kiddos back. And so we are tracking those, those other kiddos. But we can confidently say that any kid who leaves 7th grade at Mendez and goes into 8th grade, any kid who leaves 8th grade and goes into 9th grade is proficient, has made the appropriate growth. And so we're laser focused on that, and we'll continue to find those kiddos and track those kiddos, and we'll continue to make sure that we're doing everything that we can in terms of all the intervention policies, calling parents, home visits, making sure that we are incentivizing kiddos. We'll do all those steps, and we'll double down on those before we retain a kiddo. And by the way, all of these kiddos had the option to attend summer school and did not attend summer school, and so that's what resulted in their retention. It's not that, oh, you missed 17 days, and so you're back in 7th grade. They were able to attend summer school, and many of them chose not to do that. And so we certainly have those options.
Okay, and so, you said you're going out and looking for kids and bringing them in.
Certainly.
Who aren't coming in. Has there ever been a time where there's a kid that has come to the campus and has not been let in to the building?
I'm going to tell a funny story. I had a kid last year. I'm not going to say his name. He was a 7th grader. He left our school, transferred to another school, another Austin school, and you all were out that day. We were in school. He came to the campus during our instructional day, just 2 or 3 hours, just to talk to Mr. Willis and talk to me. So that might have been the only kid that I said, hey, man, you cannot sit in my office anymore. You got to go. But other than that, no, we don't have any kiddos who we're not letting in school.
Is that true? Yes. What about on the first day of school? I just got different reports than what y'all are reporting.
That kids came on the first day and weren't let in?
Because of what they were wearing.
Oh, well, I will speak to that. So that very well may have been true. I know that it's our superintendent's policy and all of our principals' policy, and we support that kids must come to school in uniform. And so we believe that how we start is how we finish. So we want to be sure that we're sending a clear message, and any student who came to school the first day who was not in uniform, that was clearly communicated, we did redirect them back home to change clothes, to be in uniform, with the understanding that if they didn't have that, and I've seen this my own self, if they didn't have the uniform shirt or khakis, come in here, get a uniform shirt, and go to class. And so, yes, we want to put that accountability back on parents and kiddos because they are middle schoolers, they're almost in high school. But if a parent cannot afford khakis or cannot afford a uniform shirt, we do have that for them. But we do not let kids in the building, especially on the first day of school, out of uniform. And that's true for all of our campuses.
Okay, so it is possible that kids are coming to school and not being let in the building, and it is happening and has happened.
It is possible that a student came on the first day of school out of uniform, that was shared with them, and we've asked them to get in uniform, and they more than likely return that same day. That happens quite frequently on the first day of school at our campuses.
And then do y'all document that as a suspension? Because they've been removed?
No, ma'am.
There's no
ma'am.
documentation?
I wouldn't say that that's documented on the first day as a suspension. And if you have certain names and situations that we can look into, then please send those to me, and we can certainly follow up individually.
Or maybe, is it happening on other days? It's just, I guess, hard to know if you're not tracking who you're letting in or not.
Well, if a student comes to campus and they're not in uniform today, then yes, they'll be sent home, and that'll be a suspension, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Coughlin.
Yeah, a documented suspension, like it'll be recorded as they were suspended to home.
Ms. Willis, would you speak to the way you and your team document that?
Most of the time, if a parent is able to come and get them, then we typically don't count that as a suspension if they need to go back just to change clothes. If a parent is not able to get them, then we do have other systems in place where they can stay, and we typically have them in the team center and they Zoom into their classes.
And if the parent picks them up, if the parent does pick them up but does not bring them back, does that get recorded as a suspension?
No.
Okay, so I also want to just kind of reflect back on some of the, what I understand the consensus of the research to be on middle school retention, and that is that the studies that have been conducted around it show that it does not necessarily, or may not increase some test scores in the short term, but that it does absolutely contribute to high school dropout. And so I just really want to, ask that be for our entire district, but that we really carefully study the strategies that we use for short-term test gains to ensure that they're actually resulting in long-term benefits for our students.
Yes, sir.
And that we're not causing long-term harm for short-term gains. I want to just kind of reiterate what I've kind of said last year around this when we visited the campus, is how important I think it is that this partnership result in improving instruction for all kids in the district, right? So we want to learn from each other, and if there are practices that are effective at Mendez through the Third Future that are resulting in positive outcomes for our students, that I want our other campuses to learn from that and to benefit from that. But I also want to ensure that what's happening at Mendez through Third Future is consistent with the values of the rest of the district. And so that if we are having shadow discipline where we're removing students from school without documentation, if we are creating an exclusive space where we cast kids out of school for violation of rules, a no excuse type policy that is also, I'm not saying that's your policy, but that we know that a very significant charter school movement had a no excuses policy that ultimately they kind of went away from because they realized the long-term harm they were causing kids by creating an exclusionary setting for kids and removing the capacity of kids to learn their own responsibility and their role in making decisions. So anyhow, I just want to reiterate that I think that's a really important part of this partnership is that we are learning from each other and that while we're creating a space for something new to happen, because we know that the outcomes for kids have to be new, we need improvements, that we're doing that in a way that's collaborative. I also just want to point out, I just was doing some back of the envelope math here, and I wanted to just kind of respond a little bit to Trustee Foster's question. I too am always skeptical when I see data and always want to know if the percentage changed, what actually changed for kids, right? And not necessarily, because you can, if you have 25% of kids pass a test this year out of 100, you can improve that to 100% by kicking out the 75 kids who didn't pass, right? And all of a sudden you have 100% passing, but the same number of kids passed. But my back of the envelope math here, looking at last year's results, was that the sixth graders in 2022, 27% of them passed reading. No, 12% met standard for reading out of 136 students, which means 16 sixth graders last year met. But your seventh graders this year, that you have a passing rate of 27% at the meet standard, which equals 43 kids passing. So the good news I see there is that of the sixth grade cohort who went to seventh grade, we went from, I don't know, which are the same kids or who, but 16 sixth graders passed in sixth grade, and then something like 43 passed in seventh grade. Sure. So that's the number of kids passing is going up. So it's not just the number of kids failing or leaving, but the number of kids passing is going up. And I saw the same kind of numbers for 7th to 8th grade.
Good deal.
So I just want to say I'm reassured by that data that in terms of that measure, that it's reflecting more students actually passing, in addition to the data you shared showing the kids who made it a level higher. So just want to commend that.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other trustees? I had a couple of questions. I wanted to see if we could take another look at some of the data. I'm sorry, I just lost my slide. Oops. Okay, I guess it was, sorry. You have a lot of good data here, so thank you. Let me refine my slide I was looking at. I think it was slide with the student growth by ethnicities.
For the NWEA assessment?
Yes.
Slide 6, maybe?
Yeah. Thank you. So I wanted to just focus on this for a moment with so just to make sure I understand, so there's a scale here on the graph from 0 to 2.5. Mm-hmm. Does 1 equate to 1 years of academic growth, or
Sure.
what does that equal?
And so it's a relative test. Mm-hmm. And so based on all the schools in the nation who've taken this assessment, if their average is 4 points, and that's 1 year, okay? Mm-hmm. So the yellow is just the average U.S. school. The light blue is the Hispanic kiddos. The darker-ish middle blue is going to be non-Hispanic kiddos, and then the dark blue is all kiddos. And so if you look at 7th grade reading for the whole school, the average school in the U.S. grew 1 year, because that's the standard, compared to them, Mendez grew twice as much, 2 years of growth on the NWEA assessment, and that's apples to apples. The same kids who were there at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year, okay? And then the same trends for the other grade level and all the other content areas.
Okay. So that's really helpful because, you know, one of the things that I often look for is like, you know, the outliers in the district, which districts are like bringing up, you know, really good growth. And so at first glance, it does definitely look like Mendez is performing well. But I do, you know, and so I want to wallow in that and appreciate that and celebrate that. At the same time, I think about, and I think Trustee Boswell may have raised this, is, you know, when I ask about outliers, when we're looking at data every month and what can we learn from them and what are the factors that might be contributing to that, you know, it could be curriculum, it could be parent engagement, it could be the class size. There's like a whole universe of things. And the idea there is like, how can we replicate that then and learn from that perhaps? So with Mendez, can you help me understand, like I've toured the school, so I get a sense of what the curriculum is like. But in terms of like the class sizes and the you know, student-teacher ratio, what is that like? And is that something that would be financially feasible, or would it, you know? So first, the
Sure.
question is like, what is the average class size?
I believe the average class size at Mendez is between 15 to 18 kiddos. And so that is a low class size. If you know any 7th graders or 8th graders, we need them, okay? We need them, we'll take them, and we want kids in class up to 23, 24, 25 kiddos. And so, and our other schools in the model have class sizes 23, 24, 25, and they're seeing the same type of growth. So I'm totally with you. Hey, it's easy to turn a school around if you only have, you know, 10 kids in a class. I totally understand that. I don't think that that's the magic pill to really explain some of the growth that we've made. I think, of course, it helps to have a smaller class size so teachers can know kids more and, you know, spend more time with each kid.
Yeah.
But I think the focus on grade instruction, laser focus on grade instruction, and changing that culture, that's what is going to get the growth.
Okay. And then, thank you for that explanation. Yeah, I mean, this is, my colleagues have raised some really good questions, and you, frankly, have raised some really good questions, too. It's like, what is the it here, you know? And it's like a matter of kind of teasing that apart, and then on top of that, looking at, you know, the attrition of students. And it seems like, at least based on the you know, the number of students who were held back, who came back, do you feel like the students that tend to return to Mendez are students who are maybe higher achieving? Like, is that a proper?
I would not say that, but I'll let Mr. Willis kind of speak to that about the things he's seeing in 8th grade. You know, we've been about 6 weeks in now, so he can kind of give a better assessment of our beginning of the year status for those kiddos.
Yep. So you're referring to the students that were retained but came back, how are they performing when they?
Well, just generally, yeah, I mean, the students who retained, most of those chose not to come back, right? But so I'm trying to extrapolate from that. I don't want to make an incorrect generalization. But did the students who continue to return to Mendez from 7th to 8th grade, do they tend to be the students who are higher achieving?
We don't filter kids by ability. We don't filter kids by ability. We don't say, hey, your test scores are too low, so you can't come here. We don't do that. We do not do that. What we do is you have to come to school at least 90% of the year. You have to be in uniform. You have to make at least 0.7 years worth of growth. And so those are the expectations. Those are the standards. And so every student at any of our campuses here at Mendez or elsewhere in the network will,
I'm sure that's the message. But but the actuality, you could probably, I'd be curious to know.
Sure.
And I don't know if you're slicing the data that way, but like, it would be interesting to see like the kids who are making the most growth. Are those also the kids who are choosing to come back? And is it the kids that are not able to keep up with, you know, the system that you have in place? Do they choose to go elsewhere? That's like the key question for me. And so that always, and I kind of harken back to what Trustee Kaufman was saying, is like, you know, in a typical middle school, like, we try to accommodate students of the whole range. And so I'm just trying to understand a little bit better sort of the profile of the typical student who chooses to remain at Mendez versus the one who leaves.
And I do appreciate the question. However, our model is one that actually is built for that, for those kids who are struggling. Each core class is 90 minutes long. The teacher teaches for the first 40 minutes on that very tight objective. They'll stop and give a DOL, a demonstration of learning, and that's about 5 to 10 minutes, and that assesses that kid on that standard on that day for their proficiency. Based on that, the kids who are on grade level or above grade level are filtered out into a team center, and they're working with a learning coach or a teacher apprentice who is in the power zone, working with those kids, watching their annotations, checking their progress. The teacher then has a whole other 40 minutes built into that same class to address, hey, you all didn't get this here, and so, here's another chance to get it. So I wouldn't say that it's those kids who are leaving because the model is so hard or it's so difficult. I will say the kids who don't come to school tend to struggle in school because they're not in school, and that can be kind of a negative loop, but I wouldn't say that the model is the reason why those kids are not coming to school or the rigor of the model. I would say the opposite. A lot of our kids are really ignited by the challenge of knowing the learning objective, of writing their whole response card, of getting through their S2 work and then going and get the A work. And so, they like that challenge, and so I'm not seeing that type of
Okay, I appreciate that. And
attitude.
for the students who choose to stay, the data is pretty clear. They tend to do well.
Sure.
So, so that's helpful to see. And I can't, for some reason I don't see it now, but I thought I saw it. It was about 8th grade science data, and I think it was for girls. And I think there's 2 versions of the presentation on Board Docs, so I may have pulled up the other one. But there was a definite dip for 8th grade science for girls at Mendez. And I was curious about that.
And we discussed that in June at that data. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So the girls in 8th grade science did not score as high or didn't get as much growth as the 8th grade boys did in science. I don't think we had a certain causality on that, but I know that Mr. Willis and I have really identified 8th grade social studies, 8th grade reading, and 8th grade science as 3 focus areas.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Trustees, any other questions?
One other question.
Yes.
I would love when you come back next time I'm really intrigued by this math growth specifically, and when you look at the STAR data, going from 2% on grade level meeting or exceeding to 33%. That is the most remarkable number in here, I think, by far. And I would really love to dive into that. I know that is really the opposite of what we're seeing in a lot of our other schools, where the math is taking a little more time to catch up and make up that COVID loss and that COVID gap. And really would love to dig into that a little more with that disaggregated data and with a stronger understanding of why you think that's the case, why you think that's been so possible, and why that is so much stronger than the reading and really so much stronger than the patterns we're seeing in other schools. Because I think, to Trustee Kaufman's point, that we have a lot we can learn from each other. I'm really intrigued by that. And welcome anything you have to say now, but really would love a little more about that when you guys come back. Would be extremely helpful to hear.
We certainly will.
Yeah.
I'll add that to the list.
Yeah, and if you have anything to share right now, I welcome it as well.
The only, I guess, magic pill, if you will, is probably 3 things, and our superintendent says it all the time: instruction, culture, and leadership. So instruction, kudos to the team at Mendez for working hard, for engaging all kiddos. Leadership, kudos to Mr. Rain and Mr. Willis, who were my right hands last year, and I know that Mr. Willis has taken the reins this year. The campus is soaring. And then culture. So thank you for helping us make sense of the retention and the uniform policy. I know it's different, but what we're doing is changing a culture. And so we look forward to the continued partnership, and we look forward to sharing our STAR updates at the end of October hopefully, and then in December, and of course at the end of the year. In the meanwhile, though, I want to renew the call. If you are ever interested, if you just happen to be in the 4-4 and over there in the area, just stop over. You don't need you don't need an appointment. You don't need anything. Okay, just come in and say, hey, I'm with Austin ISD, and you'll see Mr. Willis and Ms. Terrain upstairs in a classroom. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah.
Great.
We know you mean it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you all. We appreciate your time tonight.
Appreciate it. All right. So our next item is a follow-up to the public hearing that we had last week. So we actually don't have a set presentation for tonight, but this is regarding the TEA Special Education Proposed Agreed Order. And I know this is something that's top of mind for many people in our community. So this is really an opportunity for our trustees to ask questions to prepare for our potential vote later this month. Currently, it's scheduled for next Thursday, although we have also sort of reserved a spot for the following Tuesday, the 26th, in case we need to push that out. But we'll definitely keep the public informed on that. So anyway, we have Dr. Jacob Reach here. We have our legal counsel, Pam Kaminsky, joining us on Zoom. We also have our board counsel, Christine Badillo. And I forgot to mention, Trustee Gonzalez is also Zooming in. So thank you, Trustee Gonzalez, for joining us. So this is really, like I said, no, we don't have a presentation. This is really just a chance for us to ask questions that we as trustees have, that we've been hearing from our community, an opportunity to clarify what this agreed order entails. So trustees, any questions?
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Hunter.
This is to either of our council. Like I'm sure all the other board members, are receiving lots of communication, which we really appreciate. But one of the things that I'm not really able to, well, I guess I would like some help with this. So what I get is a lot of, just say no, don't do it, say no, and really help our community sort of understand that this is a process we are working through. It is not binary, right? I know that feels like what it is for a lot of people, say yes or say no, but there's some other, as best you can, help our community understand what we're dealing with.
Sure. So, yeah, it is a binary. You're either going to say yes or say no, but there are ramifications to both of those choices. So if you say yes, we obviously are aware, and the board has spent a lot of time reviewing and considering the content of the proposed agreed order. If you say no, it doesn't mean there just aren't any consequences. What it means is very likely, and we're to some degree speculating, but it's very likely that the sanctions proposed in the TEA final report in March will be implemented. And a significant departure from this proposed agreed order and that final report is the appointment of a monitor or monitors versus a conservator or conservators. Again, we touched on this at the last meeting. A monitor gives advice, they give recommendations, and they report to TEA. A conservator tells you what to do. So the likely outcome of saying no, voting no, or not voting, would be the installation of a conservator or a team of conservators. And what that will mean is then you will have a team of people telling you what to do. And they will have the ability to direct and require you to do it. So the upshot of that really is everything in this proposed agreed order, you can either agree to do it or you cannot agree to do it, and TEA will bring someone in, and they will make you do it. As the simplest way to put it. And of course, we're speculating about how the degree of overlap, what else might come with that in the event of a conservator appointment. But I think we can assume it will be at least this much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And the second part is a comment that in considering all of our options as we are all doing, I really want our community, because it's really easy to get into this side and that side, but caught in the middle are our children. And so the decisions that we have to keep in our mind is, yes, there are some things we have to do, but what's most important is that we are serving the children of Austin ISD, because that's why we sit here to begin with. So I really appreciate you giving us some clarification, maybe helping some of our community members know a little bit more. And then just as a reminder is that ultimately it's about our students receiving the services that they need to be successful. Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions? Trustee Whitley Chu.
And I have a question y'all may or may not know the answer to. Off the top of your head, I don't know if you know that, but are there districts who are under a conservator for a narrow reason, such as special education issues or financial or some sort of narrow area that the conservator requires them to implement Lone Star governance?
Dr. Reach may know this better than I do, but I believe I believe that is the case. In other school districts, I think the Lone Star Governance Program is, it's by statute, TEA was required to create a program like this, and so it is something that is often incorporated as a sanction, if you will. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it's as close as I can get.
Thank you.
I do know that there are other districts that have conservators that are required to do Lone Star governance. And I know that there are districts that were under investigation by TEA and entered into Lone Star governance themselves during that investigation. I can't say for sure on whether that was part of a negotiation with TEA, but I know, for instance, that one of the exemplary districts right now is not under a conservator, but is part of Lone Star governance, and they were under an investigation by TEA.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Reach. And do we know, can you give us like our district's history with Lone Star governance? Because we're not the first board to be trained. This board did a 2-day, 16-hour training on Lone Star governance, but we're not the first board to do that. And then, yeah, we'll give you time because we can do another question. Yeah.
Yeah. So our board has partaken in both Lone Star governance training and aspects of Lone Star governance with A.J. Craybill. This was during a time that both when A.J. Craybill worked for the Texas Education Agency and afterwards when he was a consultant, no longer affiliated with the Texas Education Agency. So in 2016 and 2017, we did work with A.J. Craybill to do an earlier version of Lone Star governance. It looked different than this because it was many years ago. But it was a lot of the same principles. In 2021, A.J. Craybill, no longer associated with the Texas Education Agency, also supported the board with a lot of Lone Star governance training, especially associated with scorecard development, scorecard monitoring, and how we spend board meeting time.
Thank you very much.
Any other trustees have questions? Trustee Boswell.
One of the things I know I've gotten a lot of questions from the community about is, and maybe this is more appropriate for Ashley, is who will be here for the next part of our presentation, is what student outcomes, what time spent on student outcomes means. And I know you have put a document, I guess it's under our next agenda item, so I can hold that question until we get there.
Okay, trustees, any other questions? Trustee Kaufman.
So one of the questions that's been raised also is around the appeal, the right to appeal. Could you say more about what right we currently have to appeal to the initial, assignment of a conservator as the recommendation, and what appeal we would have, what process would follow if we were to be assigned a conservator now, and then what would we be giving up?
Okay. So if the Board of Trustees votes to enter into the proposed agreed order, one of the terms currently of the order is basically a release of your right to appeal. And what that means is obviously you'd be entering into it by agreement, so you're not going to appeal any of these terms. But the terms, among the terms, is a provision that would allow TEA to install a conservator if the district is non-compliant in any of the specific action items that it is to do. And that could be with regard to special ed compliance and reaching compliance in those areas, or it could be the board's tasks in terms of revising policies and things like that. Lone Star governance, for example. So if the board enters into this proposed agreed order and fails basically to uphold the requirements, TEA has the ability to essentially escalate the sanction and install a conservator or a management team. At that point, having entered into this agreement, you would have waived your right to appeal that decision that could happen in the future based on future actions. Currently, if you do not agree to this proposed agreed order, the next step essentially would be that TEA would go ahead and implement sanctions, based on the March 31st final report. So that could, very likely would include installing a conservator or a management team. That you would, I think, arguably have the ability to appeal to SOA due to the nature of the sanction and the provisions of the Texas Education Code. That sanction, the imposition of that sanction, you would have the ability to appeal administratively. And again, that would be based on the record established in that March 31st investigation report. So that would be the decision that you were appealing.
And is there any difference between the initial conservator that was proposed on March 31st and the type of conservator or board of conservators we would get if we were under the description in this current proposal?
Right, that's a little bit unclear. In the March 31st report, the agency indicated that the management team would be over special education with specific authority that would be defined, but it would also potentially expand beyond special education to the extent, I guess, deemed necessary to impact other operational areas that have influence over special education. So that I think they specifically identified human capital, right? So that's, if we revert back to the sanctions we were contemplating in March, the likelihood is that you would have a team of conservators over special education. If we enter into this proposed agreed order and somehow fall short and find that TEA is at some later point due to noncompliance or perceived noncompliance installing a conservator or a team of conservators, it is not, I can't say that it's entirely clear what the nature of that authority would be, right? Because the proposed agreed order is not just over special education, it includes governance components that were not contemplated in the March final report. So with that in mind, if a conservator were to be appointed due to a perceived breach or noncompliance with the terms of this proposed agreed order, it's possible that it would their purview would differ.
I'm going back to page 30 of the final report from March 31st, where it says that they are recommending to the Commissioner of Education that a conservator management team be installed in ISD who will make directives as necessary to improve special education services in the district. And then it says the duties and powers assigned to the management team should be expansive enough to direct all areas affecting or affected by special education, even if not made immediately obvious by its name. So if I'm reading that correctly, it's the March 31st recommendation to the commissioner was to assign a conservator or management team that would basically have what I'm hearing is if there's a case to be made that this would help special education, could impact any areas of district,
right,
including everything that's currently identified in the more recent plan.
Right. If they perceive an operational issue in another department that they believe is influencing special education in a negative way, right? The language there, I think, gives them the authority to give directives in that area as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh.
Right. Just want to go back to the I'm just really thinking through the calls and the other emails and things we received to make sure we're addressing all the different areas of concern. So we have the appeal, the issuance of Lone Star governance, and the, I guess, okay, so several callers had referred specifically tonight to the elected board retaining its power to represent the people who elected us.
Right.
In what ways would you say that this new proposal would impact the elected board's capacity to represent the people who elected us?
Sure. Well, so it is significant to note you would remain in office, right? There are worse sanctions than just having a conservator imposed, and one of those would be to have a board of managers. That is something that is available to the commissioner after 2 years of having a conservator in place in a school district. So it has to be noted, I think, that if you were to have a conservator appointed, that's a path you will be on, right? It's a potential. And so that's kind of the, from the standpoint of having your elected officials remain in place, that's sort of your worst case scenario, is to have a board of managers be appointed in their place. In terms of the proposed agreed order, if you agree to it, the limitations that it imposes on this board are really around some of the policy making that you'll have to do. There are some specific policy changes required by this, and we could, sort of debate the degree to which they will impact the work of the board. I think the more significant piece, obviously, is the Lone Star governance component, the requirement that the board participate in that program. It is, and again, you will hear from Ashley Paz a little bit later about Lone Star governance. She's obviously the expert in that, but it is a very specific program around the work of a board leadership team, a school leadership team in governance, and it includes very specific constraints around the way the board works in terms of the lengths of meetings, the way that meeting content is allocated. We've talked a little bit about the 50% requirement, meaning that there is a requirement in the proposed agreed order that the board would immediately begin spending 50% of meeting times on student outcomes. And we've talked again about what student outcomes are, and I think that's probably a question best referred to Ashley, but in general, we're talking about test scores and the development of goals around that and the review of those kinds of things. So the limitations on the board really are, you'll have to they'll play out over time as the board gets into Lone Star governance and works with the coach, but the focus of Lone Star governance is really on sort of the focus on governance of student outcomes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Boswell.
I have a follow-up to Trustee Kaufman's question about that, that the Texas Education Code gives the board both duties and powers, and that we have a fiduciary duty we have a $1.8 billion in tax collections in our budget. We have a massive bond. We have a whole lot of real estate. We're one of the biggest landholders in the city. And do you feel like fairly, knowing what you know about Lone Star governance, knowing what you know about our duties and our obligations, that we can work within this and still meet our obligations to our community, uphold our oaths, and do the other work that is required of a board, in addition to monitoring student outcomes, which is obviously of immense importance.
Sure.
But it's not the only thing we are called by the law to do.
Right. I will say, I think the term of the proposed agreed order requiring an immediate 50% meeting time limitation is, it's ambitious, right? I don't have any reason to believe that anyone who is involved with Lone Star governance is trying to install a system that won't allow you to meet your legal requirements. I think obviously that there are it's a school of thought, just like anything else around governance and education and everything else. There are different perspectives on how to do it well and how to do it right. So this is what TEA has developed to say this is how we think school boards ought to operate. And presumably they have every expectation that a board that's going to participate in Lone Star governance is also going to be able to do within the confines of the Lone Star governance program everything else that they are required to do and should do in the service of students and your obligations under the Texas Education Code. So I don't have any reason to believe that it is not possible, but it will represent a significant departure from the way that this board has operated and the way your community might want it to, potentially.
Thank you. And I have a second question. The proposed agreed order also mentions use of time during closed session. I think for most of our community, closed session is when near the end of a meeting, we all get up and leave.
Everybody goes to bed.
And then come back and close the meeting, sometime later. Can you just share the types of things, the types of work that gets done in those closed sessions and how that fits with our duties as trustees?
Sure. Closed session is authorized by the Open Meetings Act. It's, the default is that every meeting should be open, but there are certain exceptions to that. And those include things like seeking legal advice, discussing confidential personnel matters, speaking about safety and security audits or the use or implementation of a security device or program. So anything to do with the inspections that are going on around your campuses, things like that go on in closed session. Certain real estate matters are discussed and contract matters are discussed just to protect the district's bargaining power, for example. So those are the kinds of things that go on in closed session as well. If you're hearing grievances, very often those involve confidential personnel information or student information that has to be discussed in closed session. So there are a variety of things that you just have to do in closed session.
Thank you. And then I have one final question, which is kind of the legal significance of deliberation and what we can do here as a body that we can't do anything else. And the district brings recommendations to us that we can't talk about those recommendations as a body outside of this venue and legally how that fits in with our fiduciary role and our role to be good stewards of our resources and district.
Sure. The Open Meetings Act also requires that you do your business in board meetings. So there's not really any other outlet for the board that's permissible by law to meet and deliberate and talk about and consider and certainly not act on the business of the school district. This is your opportunity. There really isn't anything else outside of a posted meeting. There are some options under the Open Meetings Act for example, around like an online forum or something like that, but those are pretty limited and pretty narrow. And again, in terms of doing the business of the school board, this is it. It's at meetings or it doesn't happen. So that's basically, that's all you have, right? There are constraints in the law that require you to do certain things, and there are constraints in the law that prevent you from talking about them outside of posted meetings. So this would be a limitation on your ability to do the work of the board in board meetings. I guess that's a way to frame it.
Okay. And to what degree is the conversation we have getting questions answered by the administration, the conversation among ourselves before we vote? Often things are on consent. We move through it quickly. We've asked questions ahead of time. And sometimes we have deeper questions, largely about big issues like the budget or, most things we approve. We get information, we see it, we take the recommendation, that's it. But things that we do have conversation about, to what degree is that a legally kind of contemplated part of our process?
Well, it's, again, the idea is transparency. It's open government. We call it that for a reason, because the idea is people should be able to see you kind of doing the work of the decision making. And I know that a lot of the work that particularly larger school districts do around the meetings is trying to make them manageable, because there is so much work to do. But fundamentally, that is the principle that is at play, is everything that you really do as a board should be done in the view of the public, right? So the conversations, the deliberation, they're sort of fundamental to that principle. It would be, otherwise just really robotic, mechanical, unhelpful, I guess, if you didn't have deliberation.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from trustees? Okay, well, thank you. Actually, I did have one clarification question, sorry. So, again, if we voted to reject this agreement from TEA, I think I heard you say we would most likely have a conservator in place. And what if we chose to appeal? Would there be a conservator in place while we were going through that?
That's right.
Okay.
If you either vote against this proposed agreed order or just don't vote on it timely, there is a likelihood that they will go to installing a conservator, and that will, if the board chooses to appeal that, they will remain, you will have a conservator pending the outcome of that appeal.
Okay.
And that appeal would be final. There's no appeal, no subsequent appeal that you would be entitled to.
Okay. And then also, just to be clear, I think I heard you say the moment a conservator starts, it starts the clock for
That's
that
right.
2 years. And at the end of 2 years, the commissioner, does he have to put in a board of managers, or he has the option to?
That's correct. It's an
Okay.
option. It's not a requirement.
Okay. And historically in Texas, has that been exercised?
Mm-hmm. It has.
Okay. Okay, so, but if we vote for this, we don't get a conservator, we have a bunch of conditions, we lose our vote, we lose the right to appeal.
Right.
It's a tough choice.
It is a tough choice, yeah.
Okay.
No question.
Thank you. Trustees, any other questions? Okay. And I do want to make one clarification too before we get into the next discussion about Lone Star governance is I want to be careful that we're not interchanging Lone Star governance with some of the conditions that are in the letter from TEA.
Right.
Because Lone Star governance does not recommend 50% immediate discussion and student outcomes.
That's right. That's at master's level.
Like what we learned in our 2-day workshop is a process that typically takes 2 years to get to a meets level, which is lower than the 50%. You could go to the 50%, but it's a little lower, and it's a little bit, it's a cultural shift, and it requires training and coaching and that type of thing. And also, Lone Star governance does not include the closed session.
Right.
And the calculations.
Right, that was my reading of the rubric
okay.
as well.
All right, well, we can hear more about that if there are no more questions. To our next item. Oh, I did want to ask Trustee Gonzalez, I think you're still on Zoom. Did you have any questions? Okay, I guess I'll take that as a no. All right, so the next, thank you all very much. And thank you, Pam. I know you were on Zoom too. The next item to share information on is Lone Star governance and the timeline. This is, so we have 2 big votes this month. We have many votes this month, but the 2 biggies are on the TEA agreed order is 1 vote, and a separate vote is a contract with the Council of Great City Schools to provide Lone Star governance training and coaching to this board. Ashley Paz gave us 16 hours of training this summer on Lone Star governance. She works for the Council of Great City Schools, and we asked her to come today to talk a little bit about what Lone Star governance is and is not. Wanted to give her a chance to meet the community through Zoom and you to see her. So I guess we can move to that. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you. The floor is yours.
Great. I'm going to share. So I want to share my screen. I want to make sure that I'm doing it properly. that's not proper. There, does that look correct? Okay, perfect. Hi, it's good to see everyone again. So my name is Ashley Paz, as you all know on the board, but hello to the Austin ISD community. I'm here tonight to introduce you all to Council of the Great City Schools and Lone Star Governance. So before I get into Lone Star Governance, I'm going to talk a little bit about who Council of the Great City Schools is. So Council of the Great City Schools, we are a national policy research and advocacy organization. We're unique in that we focus exclusively on the needs of large urban public school districts, and we support both superintendents and school boards equally. Our mission is to support our member districts to improve the education conditions for the 7.84 million children educated across the 78 largest urban school districts in our nation. Specifically, we're committed to closing the opportunity gap stemming from generations of inequity and recovering from pandemic-related learning losses. So to support this work, Council of the Great City Schools makes certified school board coaches like myself available to its member districts like Austin. Our coaches provide one-on-one coaching support for board members, whole board coaching and training, as well as coaching for the superintendent and their leadership team to support with implementing effective school board governance practices. The council has developed a framework to coincide with the coaching, one that takes student outcomes focused approach to school board governance. The intention of this framework is to translate existing research and the collective experience of dozens of Council of Great City School board members and superintendents into a set of tools that boards can use to identify their strengths and weaknesses, as well as to track progress along their journey toward improving student outcomes. And I want to be clear. Earlier we talked about TEA developing Lone Star Governance. It actually was, so Lone Star Governance is actually a derivative of a framework that a Council of the Great City Schools did the research on and produced. So essentially, LSG is the Texas version of that. So it has some specific Texas-specific issues that it deals with, and the training specifically includes a piece that is specific to the Texas accountability system. So that is who Lone Star Governance is, or who Council of Great City Schools is. Now let me tell you a little bit about Lone Star Governance. So why do we need a framework for school boards? So we tell school boards that school systems exist to improve student outcome. That is the only reason for which school systems exist. School systems do not exist to serve founders, to provide status, to benefit patrons. Other types of boards do, and that is A-okay, but school boards do not, and school systems do not. School systems do not exist to have great buildings or balanced budgets or happy parents, or satisfied teachers or school lunches. All of those things are incredibly important, but they are all means, and they are very, very important means, but none of them are the ends. None of those are why we have school systems. They're all inputs, not outcomes. None of those are measures of what students know or are able to do. Simply put, school systems exist for one reason and one reason only: to improve student outcomes. And so we have Lone Star Governance to help boards learn how to do this, to help give them a toolbox so that they can be successful at focusing their work on improving student outcomes. So this is a research-based framework that guides school boards to deepen their focus on student outcomes. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that framework actually entails. But at a high level, it is research-based, and so in the framework, which I'll show you in just a little bit, we actually have a whole list of that research, and it's also publicly available on TEA's website, I believe. But we'll get into that in just a minute. And so how does it work? LSG focuses on key areas of school board behavior change that are presented through the implementation instrument or a rubric. The most successful school boards are guided through the implementation by a certified coach after attending a 2-day orientation workshop like you all have. And so how do school boards actually initiate the framework? So first, they attend a 2-day workshop with the full governing team. That's the board and the superintendent. Every single board member must attend a 2-day orientation workshop that focuses on 3 levers of adult behavior change. These are mindset, knowledge, and skill. The workshop can be a transformative experience for governing teams, and it's a non-negotiable before the implementation of the work can begin. So every single school board that implements LSG has to start with the workshop. So after you attend the workshop as a board, you have to agree that this is the path you want to take. The board must make a collective agreement that this is the way they want to go. This is the path they want to pursue. Like any decision to change behaviors, the work is far more likely to be successful when the choice is made rather than when it's forced. So after that decision has been made, you adopt an implementation timeline. Attending the 2-day training can be a transformative experience, but it's not enough to actually change behavior in a sustainable way. To effectively implement the work, the board must adopt an implementation timeline that clarifies for everyone involved, the board, the staff, the community, when and how the different stages of work will be implemented. This is also part of the board's commitment. This is where the board says, this is the work that we're willing to do. This is what we're willing to do to change our behaviors so that we can improve student outcomes across our district. And so after the board has made that agreement and they have made a commitment to do the work, they begin receiving implementation support from a certified coach. So across the board, the most successful boards who implement this work do so with the support of a certified governance coach. I'm a nationally certified governance coach, so I'm actually certified through Council of the Great City Schools. We also have several coaches that are just certified in the state of Texas for Lone Star governance as well. So I have received a highly specialized training that often requires multiple years to actually get through. And I have had to meet a strict set of standards to ensure that all of the boards that I support are set up for success. And so when you commit to the work and start working and receiving support with a coach, then it's just time to embrace the journey to creating conditions for improved student outcomes. Effective governance frameworks are not easy by design. This work is hard. I don't want to suggest in any way, shape, or form that it is not difficult. This is certainly a commitment by the board to choose the road less traveled. In organizational change management, there's a saying that change requires discomfort. And neuroscience research tells us that uncertainty registers in our brain much like an error does. It needs to be corrected before we can feel comfortable again. So we'd rather not have that hanging out if we can avoid it. We also fear change because we fear what we might lose that's associated with that change. This work begs the question, what am I willing to give up in order to create better conditions for the children that I serve? For many school board members who have gone through this journey, the realization that the discomfort associated with the change on their school board is minuscule when compared to the discomfort experienced by the students who fall through the cracks of ineffective governance. The discomfort that accompanies the productive struggle of change is inevitable. That said, it's a choice that you have to make. It's a choice to live into that discomfort and persevere to transformation, or reject that discomfort and fall back into the old patterns that produce the old outcomes. What implementation actually looks like. The agreement that the council sets with Great City Schools member districts, every single board that we enter into a coaching contract with is that they will achieve 80 out of 100 points on their quarterly self-evaluation using the implementation instrument. This is strictly just commentary on the agreement with the council. I want to recognize your letter from the agency sets the expectation for you to reach meets focus under each of the sections of the LSG instrument, plus the master's focus under Vision and Goals 3, which I think gets you to 84 out of 100 points instead of 80 out of 100 points. So in the 2-year commitment, boards implement the work by adopting student outcome goals, superintendent constraints, and then they monitor progress of those goals and constraints monthly, ultimately striving to spend at least 50% of your time engaging with the community around setting and monitoring student outcome goals. So I think earlier I heard the question, what does it actually mean to spend time focused on student outcomes? This is any time that you're monitoring student outcome goals, setting student outcome goals, evaluating the superintendent specifically as it pertains to the achievement of student outcome goals, goal progress measures, constraints, and constraint progress measures. And then also time engaging the community using the LSG model of community engagement. And we can talk about that later if you'd like. But specifically using the LSG process and engaging them around their vision and their values. And so one of the questions that's kind of been on the table is about spending 50% of time in the board authorized public meetings focused on student outcomes. What does that mean? And so most boards that get to the point of spending 50% of their time monitoring student outcomes don't actually get there overnight. It usually is a process, and it's a process that you get to by streamlining your system, by streamlining your processes, by setting norms as a board and agreements of how you're going to focus your board's work. And so there are ways to get there a lot quicker. It would require a profound change in behavior to make it happen in that way. So that's just kind of the high level overview for Lone Star governance. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open the floor for questions.
Thanks, Ashley. Trustees, do you have any questions? Trustee Boswell.
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you joining us. And do you mind sharing just your experience in Texas as your loans, just the Texas piece of it I think is helpful to people as well, that you kind of come to this from both directions?
You mean my personal experience in Texas?
Yeah,
or my
yes. Do you
experience as a
mind?
coach?
Yeah, your trustee experience
yeah.
and kind of how you came to this. I think that would be helpful for our community to hear.
Yeah, I would love to. So I actually served for 8 years as a school board member in Fort Worth, and where I was a school board member. We also implemented Lone Star governance. I'm not going to comment on the quality of implementation that we had, but we did implement it. The work was very critical to my board and some of the things that we had to do. I can share that there wasn't a huge amount of buy-in from all of our board members, and they are currently in the exact same position as Austin ISD with the letter from the conservator and debating whether or not they're going to get a monitor and facing some of the same changes that you are. But that really has nothing to, well, it does have something to do with me because I was part of the board that got them to that point. And that's something that I am very transparent about, open about, is all of the ways that in my effectiveness as a school board member, the way that some of the times that I would spend focused on things that were not student outcomes. There's just a lot of regret in my life now about that. But I get to work with great boards like yours who are committed to actually focusing. And I think that one of the things that I've been really impressed with by your board is how we started this conversation before the letter came from TEA, and y'all really started this work far beyond then. This is something that you've talked about doing even without that. And I think that one of the things that I spoke to was the boards that are the most successful are the ones that do this by choice, not by force. And that's what I really hope for you all, is that we can go into this as a team, and especially on the side of Council of the Great City Schools, we as an organization have a commitment to helping school boards through this process and kind of separating the work from any kind of expectations by states.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And Ashley, one question that I've gotten a lot from our community is what do student outcomes mean? And I'm hearing from people, well, our budget is about student outcomes, and whether we have full staffing is about student outcomes. That our buildings that we have, our building with the bond that we recently passed, that our community supported so strongly and helped us craft, relates to student outcomes. But student outcomes is a real term of art within this framework, this system. Can you, and I think we may have that page in the time tracking page, maybe something we can pull up, I'm not sure if it is, but if we can you help people understand when you say student outcomes, you mean a very specific defined thing that may not be what people have in their heads?
Yeah, it actually is very, very specific. So student outcomes are anything that a student knows or is able to do. So a budget is not going to be a student outcome. Your facilities are not going to be student outcomes. Those are all means to improving student outcomes. They are definitely things that are important in making improved student outcomes happen, but they themselves are not student outcomes. So examples of student outcomes, so you have the more commonly talked about things like, how students perform on tests and how students, how well they're learning as it pertains to the state standards, the TEKS. But those aren't the only types of student outcomes. There are also other types of student outcomes. So how students are placing in UIL competitions, in theater, and how they're performing in athletics. Is your high school football team winning the state championship? That would be a student outcome because it's something that students are doing. So it's any actual demonstration that is completed by students that either it's a demonstration of their knowledge or of their skill.
Thank you for that. And I think when we talk about spending a defined amount of our time on student outcomes, does that mean we have that whole universe of student outcomes to choose from meeting to meeting? Or are we constrained as we go through the process on talking about some of those student outcomes and not others? If we talk about those others, they don't count toward that time. Can you help clarify that for our community?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. So the board has to set student outcome goals. That's one of the most critical piece of the LSG framework. Lots of school boards have goals. Actually, most school boards have goals. Not all of them. Not every school board sets goals, but most school boards do set goals. But we actually guide you to adopting very specific student outcome goals. And so it's when we ask, or I say, why do school systems exist? It's to improve student outcomes. And that's kind of the reason, is that if we exist to improve student outcomes, we actually need to be monitoring the thing that we do, the reason that we exist. And so the board should be setting 3 to 5 student outcome goals. And that's actually based on some research done by Stephen Covey, Franklin Covey. And so 3 to 5 student outcome goals. And we actually encourage you to do, so there are a couple of pieces of information that you have to take into account. So one of those things is a comprehensive student needs assessment or a root cause analysis. You actually need to look at the data and understand what is the current reality for students in your district. And what that data will reveal is what the highest leverage student outcomes are that you can focus on. And so if I were, looking through a comprehensive student needs assessment in Austin ISD, I would assume that one of the things that would reveal is student outcomes that are specifically related to special education. So students who are receiving special education services. I would expect to see a gap in that, in those outcomes, and that would reveal that that is a high need, high leverage area that if you were to spend quite a bit of time focused on those student outcomes, it's going to move the needle in the biggest amount in the shortest time for your district. But that's not the only thing. Other high leverage student outcomes also tend to be literacy. So how well students are receiving information and actually comprehending information as it pertains to literacy standards. Another one is math and math standards. Those are often considered high leverage student outcomes. That's why we have House Bill 3 that has some really specific rules about goals that the board has to set. But those are, so you set your student outcome goals. So setting your student outcome goals, anytime that you spend doing that, that is inclusive of time engaging with the community to understand what their vision and their values are. So I said that you need to rely on a couple of pieces of information when you are identifying your student outcome goals. So one of those is your root cause analysis or comprehensive student needs assessment. The other is actually feedback from your community that you can only get through engaging with them. So you actually have to go out to the community and talk to them and ask them, and through a two-way communication, where you say, "Hey, this is what the current reality is for students. Now tell us what you think the student outcomes are that we should focus on the most." So once you've gathered that information, those are the student outcomes that they want you to spend time monitoring. And so time spent engaging the community to set your student outcomes, time spent in meetings, creating your student outcome goals, time spent monitoring your student outcome goals. And then finally, the recommendation is that the superintendent's evaluation be set primarily on the achievement of the student outcome goals and the honoring of the constraints, and also as measured by the goal progress measures and constraint progress measures. So those are the four kind of buckets that traditionally fall into the time use evaluation for your student outcome goals.
Thank you for that. So I think for clarity, just to be clear, it's really once we are in this pipeline and in this relationship with TEA with you, we're really talking about that amount of time spent on those 3 to 5 things. And talking about our UIL success, our, national winning sports team, our if college career readiness isn't on there, those don't count as student outcome. That's fits in that bucket with everything else.
Yeah, they would have to, only those things if you adopt a goal around those things.
Right. Thank you.
So if you say that this is so much of a priority for our community and for our district that we're going to adopt this as a goal, that's the point where you would spend time, at least 50% of your time in your board meeting talking about those things.
Good. Thank you for that, Ashley. I think we as a board have clarity about that because we've spent time with you talking about that. I think our community, that's helpful for people to get that clarity. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you sharing, pointing to the research. We have a community that really often likes to go deep into the data. We have tons of professors here. We have, a lot of tech people, a lot of data nerds, and just a very engaged community generally. We're incredibly fortunate to have a really deeply engaged community here all across our neighborhoods. And can you help people know, can you point people to where they can find that? So they can kind of look at that if they're interested?
Yes. So if you, so I actually don't work for TEA. I want to make that.
Yes, we know there's a separation. Thank you. Yes.
Well, so you said time engaged with me and TEA. So I just wanted to make that.
Well, engaged with you in Great City Schools, and we are in a relationship with TEA, yes, as a board, right? Yes, thank you.
So I don't know exactly, so I'm not great at navigating the TEA website, but I'm great at finding this manual in a pinch. So If you actually just go to Google and you Google Lone Star Governance Participant Manual, it will be the first thing that comes up, and it actually is a direct link to the PDF. It's also on TEA's website under the Lone Star Governance page, and there is a direct link to it on their Lone Star Governance page. So in the manual, and I will tell you exactly what page it's on in just a second. So there is a long list of all of the research, and it can be found starting on pages 66 through 68 of the manual.
Thank you. And then it's also at the Council of Great City Schools website?
It's not on Council of the Great City Schools website, but so on Council of the Great City Schools website, there's a similar framework. It's called Student Outcomes Focused Governance. It's a little bit different, but if you look at the research, all of the research in both documents is the same.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. I appreciate that, and thank you for clarifying the two different names and that it has similar origin story. And then I think one question I'm also getting from the community. Well, I have one question for you. Yeah, I think it relates. You've talked a lot about success in implementing the model. And I have a good sense of what success in implementing the model looks like. Where do you see success in implementing the model translate into success in student outcomes? And can you point our community to some districts where this has really transformed things for those student outcomes? That the model is one thing, but what we see for our students is another.
Yeah, so the most recent and probably the most profound example of this is actually one of my neighbors here in North Texas at DeSoto ISD. I guess it was 2 years ago, DeSoto was, they were placed with a conservator. And so I don't know enough about their history to know if they had a monitor and then a conservator, or if it was just a conservator the whole time. So I'm not going to comment on that. But I know that they were given a conservator in 2020. So they actually have a number of different indicators that they were looking at. So, and if you go to the DeSoto ISD webpage, you can actually see their results and they have it laid out in a very linear timeline. And so they had finance issues, they had operational issues, they had facility issues, and then most importantly, they had issues with their student outcomes. So they were, I can't remember if they were an F or a D-rated district at the beginning of in the 2019-2020 school year, and then they were issued a conservator. And so through the streamlining of their processes, refocusing, reorienting their board and the way that they spent their time in meetings, and really what it was for that board is they were hyper vigilant about creating a culture that was centered on student outcomes and what is happening for students. What is the reality for students? And their transformation has been incredible. So they have gone from F in almost all of those domains to now being in, financial accountabilities. They went from an F to an A. Their facilities management went from an F to an A. All of the different things. They went from, so in their student outcomes, their state accountability, I don't know what it is this year because it hasn't come out yet, but last year they were at a B, and that came up from just 2 years prior. So it was I'm pretty sure it went from a D to an F in just 2 years. So they've had substantial transformation, and they actually just ended their relationship with their conservator. They signed off and said they've done everything we've asked. They've checked all of the boxes, and they're rocking and rolling. There's no need for us here anymore. So it is definitely possible to go into the agreement with the conservator or with the agency and get a conservator and come out on the other side whole. I don't know how often that happens. They're just they're the district that I'm the closest to, so they're the one that I know the most about.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And yeah, I know a lot of people in the state have watched their, shift. And I think we're obviously in a different situation. We're a B-rated district with an incredibly strong financial history with, strong student success in many areas, obviously some gaps and some needs in other, the special education being the obvious one, which is why we're having this conversation today. But we know we talk a lot here about disaggregated data about our students. We within the past couple of years have created a culture where we're talking very openly and often and consistently about that. Our facilities are run well, our procurement is run well. We're in a different situation from DeSoto. And the belief is that this works everywhere, big district, small district, healthy district, unhealthy district, that it works. Is what you're...
Is that a question?
Yes. That's
yes,
the belief.
absolutely.
That's the promise of the system.
And honestly, I think that even in a situation like yours, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't tell the future, but I would expect that because you do have a fairly healthy board and you do have a very healthy district in almost all of the other domains, it's only when you get into that disaggregated data, I have the belief that the climb for your district is going to be it's going to be a lot shorter than it has been for some other districts that have been implementing this work. It's really, and I don't know enough about the internal operations of your district because we haven't been together that long. But my assumption is that you would be able to come through this fairly easy if there is the commitment from the leadership to move forward. I think that, well, I'm getting into speculation and pretending I have the crystal ball,
Fair.
so I'm not going
Totally
to do that. But I think that I think that for a district like Austin, you're set up for success. It's just a couple of small little tweaks for you guys.
And then I have one more question. I think part of the reason we are financially healthy, that our operations are healthy, that many of the programs we offer our students are strong career. Our CCMR is relatively strong. We have higher graduation rates. We do well in many, many things, is because we spend time, because we invest in that collaboratively in our role as governance and oversight with our administration, with the superintendent, and we do go out into our community a great deal and do that two-way communication, that collaborative communication. I know there's a lot of concern in our community that narrowing the time we can spend on those things, it's less about the 50%, it's about the 50% plus the short, the 3 hours. And how do we take care of all of those things and keep them healthy in an hour and a half twice a month? And I think that's a real concern for a lot of people in our community, and I would love to hear you speak to that.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that you've mentioned are actually, so in Lone Star governance and actually in other governance models as well. But so the research suggests that the time that you spend on, if you were to transfer the time that you spend, the profound amount of time that you spend on all of those other things and transfer them to spending the time on student outcomes, especially the ones where there may be some struggle happening, that will translate to the community that these are the things that we are the most focused on. These are our highest priorities. And so what you spend your time on in meetings matters. And to suggest that that not spending your so all of those things are important to you, then we want you to spend time on those things, on all of the other. But it's just kind of transitioning some of the things that aren't as necessary for the board to spend time on, such as, and it's the way that you spend your time on those things. And I, again, don't know, I haven't evaluated past board meetings to the depth of actually understanding where your time goes yet. But that will be one of the first things that happens if you enter into an engagement with the council. And so if you're spending your time on facilities, if you're spending your time on transportation, if you're spending your time on all of the operational things that are really, so the board may have some oversight on those things, but those are really the superintendent's job. Those are the things that the superintendent should be implementing to the highest degree. If you spend your time focused on student outcomes instead, then you are going to see more bigger results in your student outcomes. So, for example, lots of boards like to spend, and I don't know if this is true for Austin or not, but a lot of boards like to spend time talking about facilities. How we're going to manage the facilities, which facilities are going to do what things. The research suggests that you can spend all of your time on facilities, but that's not actually going to correlate to improve student outcomes. You can spend all of your time talking about safety and security, which are, again, very profoundly important things, but you're still not going to translate to improve student outcomes. Another really great example is during COVID. So we actually have time use research on the way that how boards spent their time during the pandemic, talking about mask mandates, talking about the opening and closing of schools, talking about all things pandemic related. And there is actually no difference in districts that where the board spent a lot of their time talking about those things versus boards that spent no time talking about those things. Like the learning losses that were related to the pandemic actually didn't have that profound of an impact at all. But the ones the boards that didn't spend time focused on those operational aspects, that doesn't mean no time, but less time, and delegated most of that to the superintendent, and instead used their time talking about how the pandemic was impacting learning in their district, how students were actually receiving accessing instruction, all of the things that are specific to student outcomes. Those are actually the districts that had the lowest learning losses. And so that's some of the research, the emerging research that we're leaning into today, talking about this. And so I want to be clear though on one thing. The framework actually, so 50% is masters. 50% is the aspirational place where we want school boards to be. Most school boards hover between 25 and 50%. Usually school boards that get to 25% within the first year of implementation are the ones that see the most profound impacts on their in their student outcomes and their results for what students know and are able to do. 50% is usually a place where boards can get to. It's not a place where a lot of boards maintain for a long period of time. And so I just want to point that out, and I'm sure that you and your colleagues might have some more questions about that as well.
Great, thank you, Ashley.
Trustee Hunter.
Thank you. Good evening, Ashley. I just want to pick up a little piece that Trustee Boswell kind of left a little thread, and I just want to pull on it a little bit. She mentioned that we have a very savvy community, and I really want our community, because some of the information that's out there in our community and some of the emails that we get are around the terms research. And being a college town, we know that the words research and proven are two different things, right? So research is a gathering of knowledge, and proving means demonstrated by evidence. And so I commend DeSoto ISD with their nearly 7,400 students on the work that they've managed to do. But my question is two parts. Has LSG ever been implemented in a district this size, which would be 10 times the size of DeSoto? And then I know that you're nationally certified, so I assume that you probably have worked with those larger school districts. If you can help our community understand a little bit more about proven versus researched, and then being implemented in a district this size, and then your experience with districts this size.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great question. So as you mentioned, I actually do most of my work nationally. So I actually specialize with large urban districts, and that's because I'm with the Council of Great City Schools. That's what we do. And Council of Great City Schools so they're actually a DC-based research, policy research organization. And so they are probably the experts when it comes to education policy research through both what is identifying what is correlated and what is actually where causation actually lives. And so I will speak to the big districts. So in the state of Texas, we've got the big seven: San Antonio, El Paso, Austin, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Arlington, my next door neighbor. So in those big seven, I will say that none of those districts have really implemented LSG to fidelity. Actually, all of them have taken bits and pieces of the framework, but it's usually, adopting goals. They're not always adopting completely student outcome goals. Not always adopting constraints necessarily by the book. And so a lot of the implementation has been kind of, it's just been kind of spotty. And so I can't speak to the effectiveness of the big districts in Texas, but I can speak to some success stories nationally. And so it won't be specifically LSG, but aligned frameworks. So a couple of the districts that are kind of our exemplars would be Des Moines, Iowa is a big one. Anchorage, Alaska, who actually has a brand new superintendent from Texas. Albuquerque, New Mexico is one of our standouts today, who has just started their progress monitoring, but they've already started to show profound cultural impacts with their implementation of the work, and actually a really interesting response from the community as well. And they're probably the most similar to, as far as district size, they're just a little bit bigger than Austin ISD. Charlotte, North Carolina is another one that has been doing this work for a while and has started to see some profound impacts as well.
Okay, and then I guess my last piece on that is I would be interested to know, I'm glad that we have some experience with those larger schools, and then I've never been to Des Moines, Iowa. I don't know how many students there are emerging bilingual or how many African-American students are there, but those are some, and how many students with special education services, but I think those are the areas that a lot of big urban school districts sort of are challenged by. And so as we move forward, I'd really like to know the research on, I guess, the one piece of like, why aren't larger districts implementing it? I mean, good is good, right? Spinach is good no matter who eats it. It might not taste good, but it's good for you, right? So is it a case of we just don't want to do that because it doesn't taste good, or it doesn't fit with what we need? So I think that's a piece I'm wondering about. And I guess another wondering is that we want things to, there's a mold, right? But sometimes that mold may have to shift. Not that the mold is bad, but maybe it just doesn't fit exactly what we need. And I hope that as we partner and move forward, that there, as our last group I just talked to, it's great if you can drive the nail, but it does no good if you split the plank, so that as we move forward with Lone Star governance, that there's some room to shape a different pattern, or maybe not a different pattern, but a pattern that fits and can be both successful. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, can I respond? Can I respond to that? Because it's, they actually have a really important piece around that. So one of the things that's a really important distinction about this work is that this is a framework. This is not a model. So if you think of a model like a model car, it comes in a package and it has all of the pieces, and you put it together exactly how it looks on the box. This is not that. This is not that. This is actually designed to be specific. So it's the implementation of this work looks different in every single district where it is being implemented. And so one of the things that we strive for is to actually make this fit your needs, make this fit the needs of your community. And that's why, through the implementation, as your coach, I will never tell you this is what you have to do. This is what here's the way. I will never say these are what your goals have to be. I will never say these are what your constraints have to be. I will never say these are all of the questions that you should be asking. I can provide you a roadmap for how to get there, but you have to shape your own journey. And that's a really important distinction about this work, as opposed to some other governance models that are one size fits all, where they come with like some baked in goals, baked in constraints, or similar variations of those. We really strive to really encourage boards to make this their own, not just allow you to, but kind of force you to an extent. And then, and really calibrating for the people in your district, for the students and the communities in your district that are farthest from privilege. And so you'd be surprised if you look at the demographics in Des Moines, Iowa, because I was too. But that is one of the critical pieces of this work, is that it is calibrated or at least the coaching piece of the work is calibrated for those who are the farthest from privilege.
Thank you.
Any other trustees have questions, comments? Trustee Foster.
So is making this choice, is it a big decision?
Are you asking me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a huge decision because it's a decision to, like I said in my presentation, if you choose this path, you are deliberately choosing the path less traveled. This is not the easy way. I like how Trustee Foster phrased it. This is you're choosing to eat spinach instead of birthday cake. This is not going to be the most comfortable process. It's not going to be the easiest thing to do, and it is an active choice to go about this work and choose to do the uncomfortable thing.
So it's important for us to consider it carefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does this discussion count towards student outcomes?
Is this a public hearing, or is this just a special called meeting?
This is just one of our standard board information sessions.
So generally, I think that the answer is going to be no, because we're talking about what the adults are going to be doing, not what students know or are able to do.
Madam President, in the interest of time, I'd like to move to the next agenda item.
I appreciate that. Trustees, is there any objection to moving to the next agenda item? Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. I'm sure we'll be able to ask you questions offline if we have further questions. Thank you very much. All right. Our next item is part of our commitment to discuss student achievement and outcomes. And this will count towards our minutes, I believe, on student outcomes. So next we have a presentation on the 22-23 district scorecard outcomes. So Mr. Segudo, would you please introduce the next item?
Absolutely, I'd love to. I'd like to ask Dr. Reach, Chief of Governmental Relations and Board Services, and Ms. Patty Rodriguez, our new Deputy Superintendent, to come up and share the presentation and answer any questions that you may have.
President Singh, Board of Trustees, and Interim Superintendent Segura, thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight to share with you the outcomes from our 2022-2023 scorecard. So these are the results from last year's scorecard. As you know, as part of our commitment to goal card monitoring, we do meet with the Board of Trustees throughout the year to discuss our goal progress measures and interim progress on our overall goals. What we are sharing here tonight is the outcome data for our goals. We do have final data for everything except for one indicator, which I'll mention when we get there. But first, I just want to share a little bit about where we were that brought us here. So our district scorecard is aligned to district priorities. This was work that we took part in with Studer Education back in 2020. As part of that work, the board had set their priorities: student achievement, student well-being, teacher and employee well-being, culture of respect and customer service, and fiscal stewardship and budget prioritization. And then, of course, equity being the foundation of all of those priorities. The board approved this scorecard in partnership working with Studer Education on November 16th, 2020. The scorecard was then amended in December 16th, 2021, and that was probably the big change that happened. That's where we looked at changing a lot of our goals from the overall all students will type of goal to students where we saw the greatest needs. So that was done in conversation with our trustees, and then later, after our trustees had already started that conversation of needing more equity-focused goals, we worked with AJ Craybill, who helped us as we finalized the new scorecard that was amended in December. We've amended it 2 other times, once May 19th, 2022, which was to ensure that our scorecard indicators aligned with our HB3 goals. And then again, most very recently, May 8th, 2023, where we finalized our last survey indicator and also added 2 new indicators for special education, which I get to preview today, but that you'll also get your first board quarterly check-in next month. So we want to start with our student achievement scorecard indicators. And first I want to orient everyone to where we are with our chart that we have up here. So on the left, you have listed each goals that we have under that category. And then we have provided the most recent 3-year outcomes for those goals. Of course, some of these did not have any data available because the goal that we created was off of a new system. So for instance, you see no data available 1920. That's because we did not have STAR tests in 1920. And then when we get to some other ones, you'll see no data available because that system did not exist at that time. The 4th column that you see is the goal for 2022-2023, and then the last column that we have is the actual. This is goal 1 through 5. What we just discussed through this last presentation was about student outcome goals, and these are our 5 student outcome goals. Goal 2 and 3 and goal 5 are also part of our HB3 goals, and we'll touch on some of that on our next slide. But what we want to share here is the actual data for these. So as you can see, based off of the data on here, we did not meet our intended goals for the 2022-2023 school year. While in some situations, such as goal 1, we did see an increase from last year, it was not a significant enough increase to meet our goal. On some others, including goal 2 and goal 3, we actually saw that those results slide back a little bit. And this is, of course, based off of last year's STAR results, which was not the exact same STAR test, which we've discussed previously, but this is fair of a comparison as we can make. Goal 5, I do want to briefly highlight. That's our CCMR outcome bonus goal. We are able to project that, but will not receive final data from the Texas Education Agency on that until December 2023. And furthermore, I want to remind that this is not last year's graduates, but the year previous. So CCMR outcomes bonus is always a year delayed, and then it takes about another 6 months to get that outcome bonus information. But that outcome bonus is part of that HB3 goal that actually delivers additional funding to the district. So we did see a decrease also overall in that goal. And it's worth mentioning that that class of 2 years ago would have been the class that had that COVID year, their junior year. And we know, and what we discussed previously with our board, is that for a lot of those students, when they were looking at those coherent sequences that led through industry certifications, they may not have been able to continue some of those courses because of the online format. And some students felt, just for whatever reason, of not continuing some of those on when they did return back. So we do think that that may account for some of this, but we recognize that we do have a lot of work to do with our CCMR goals as well. I'm happy to go on to HB3, or we could pause on our 4 major goal settings. And
Please continue.
okay. So another thing that we want to make sure that we cover is our HB3 goals. So HB3, passed back in 2017, does require that school districts set goals on 3rd grade numeracy and literacy and CCMR. Because I don't have final CCMR data for the state and I only have projections for the district, we're just sharing our grade 3 reading and math here. But when we come back to share our CCMR goal as part of our interim reporting that we do throughout the year, we will be sure to provide that full data for CCMR as well. So what you see on this chart is our grade 3 reading and grade 3 math for Austin ISD in the state. So Austin ISD is the first column, then the state, and then we've broken it down based off of the demographic groups that the state has set to monitor under HB3. So overall as a district, you can see that we are either aligned or slightly above the state. But when you start breaking it down by student group, you can see that the big changes of this is due to the white student group, which vastly outperforms the state. Austin ISD is about roughly, and I'm not going to get this number exactly right, but around a 30% white student population. And so that performance has a good effect on our overall results. Our Hispanic students and our African American students do underperform state results, and this is also a drop compared to previous years. So we'll move on to our next section, which is student well-being. This includes our goals around the CTE, coherent sequence, and other coherent sequence for students, which includes athletics, fine arts, visual arts. It also includes our discipline items, and then our brand new special education items is the new Goal 9 and Goal 10. So for Goal 6, that CTE coherent sequence, this is for last year's juniors and seniors. So those juniors are mostly all still here. They're now seniors, and the seniors would have graduated. But looking at those students who have completed those coherent sequences, we were looking to raise that up, and that did slightly drop from 52% down to 50%. So we saw a decrease on that one. Our disparity is based off, our Goal 7 and 8, our disparity in disciplinary referrals. This is based off of discretionary removals only, so it does not include any mandatory removals. And it's looking at the disparity. So what we've done is we've set a goal that is based off of that student's population group of the overall student population group. And then the percent of their disciplinary referrals should be equal to the overall percent. And that could be one way that we look at is their disparity in referrals. Because both of those groups were already much higher than their student population group, we set our interim targets to have a decrease over the year, but those did not quite meet our goals. So in this case, we want our actual to be lower than our goal. While we did see a slight decrease in disparity in African American, it was not the increase we needed to hit our goal. And there was also a very slight decrease in special education, but not enough to bring us around to our goal. Our goal 9 and 10, and these are numbers, I want to make sure I get this right, from May, Dr. Robinette, correct? Yes, thank you so much. I should have added that in the PowerPoint. So the two actual data that you see there are from May. And again, the first one is number of initial and reevaluations conducted. So we want our actual to be higher than our goal, and we did hit that. We are above how many evaluations we said we would complete during the school year. Goal 10, which is the pending evaluations, we want that below our goal because we want to eventually decrease that to 0. And we did again hit that goal, and we are below our overall goal. Our next one is teacher and employee well-being, goal 11 through 13. One thing that I want to remind us for goal 11 and 12, and this is also a presentation that we will have next month, is that this is data for the last school year. So this isn't the retention rate that we have right now. It's the retention rate that we had last September. So next month, Ms. Hosak will present to you our newest data of the number of teachers from last year who are still here this year. So while it's current for the 2022-23 school year, it is delayed about a year. So the first one, goal 11, is looking at the retention rate for teachers who remain in a teaching position at Title I schools. And so as the board remembers, we had a conversation around this on how do we best measure teachers who stay at Title I schools and get those years of service at a Title I school. And so we agreed that if a teacher went to a non-Title I school or moved up to as an administrator or moved to central office, that would count against this goal. So to be clear, it's teachers who are teaching at a Title I school and are now still teaching at a Title I school. It could have been another Title I school, but it had to have been a Title I school. Goal 12 is for all other staff who are still at Austin ISD who are not teachers. So they could have been anywhere. It could have been a teacher or a assistant principal who then moved to central office. It could have been someone who moved from central office to a campus. As long as they are still in Austin ISD, they were included in that, except for our teachers. While we had good results the past previous years, we did see a decrease at the start of last school year. I don't want to ruin anything for Ms. Hosak's presentation, but we do know that we've seen strong increases moving into this year already and vastly different data than what you see presented here tonight. Goal 13 is a % of staff survey participation. This is just the % of all the staff who took our Panorama survey. We did see a decrease on that as well, and we discussed this when we shared some of the Panorama results on some of the things we learned, such as survey fatigue, that we know played a role with some of our Title I teachers, and that we could actually see that our Title I teachers responded at a slightly lower rate overall for the Panorama survey. So we have work to do to ensure that our staff participation increases. The other thing that I'll mention for our surveys is that this year we will move not just doing campus staff surveys, but we'll also do central staff surveys for this school year. Our next set is our culture of respect and customer service. This is the outcomes on our survey results, looking at satisfaction measured by the climate survey section. So we look at the same section for all 3 of our surveys. We did see a good increase for our staff satisfaction. We did not meet the goal the year previous, but we saw so much increase that we did end up meeting the goal for this year despite not meeting it for the year previous. So that was something that we were really excited about. But we did see a decrease in our student satisfaction and our family satisfaction. As you can see, our family satisfaction, we had met the goal the year previous, but that one actually did decrease. So we were short of the goal. Likewise, while we did not meet our student satisfaction the year previous, we were close. That also had a slight decrease, not as large as the other one, And so moving in the opposite direction and understanding that there's work to be done with working with our campuses, working with our principals on satisfaction survey results and campus climate, and how we can help support that for our students and our families while also still supporting that for our staff. Our last ones, to give Mr. Ramos and his team a big round of applause. He did hit all of the goals under his section. And this first rating is not final, correct? Yeah, so the first rating is not final, but they did provide preliminary results for first. We did increase from that 90 back to a 94, and that was mostly due to our debt, correct? That's right, the recapture payment going early. So that was great. Our bond rating is still maintained where we're at, and then Oscar's team and our campus team in enrollment working on our student share. While we did see a very slight decrease in our student share, it was not much, and we still stayed above our goal of 81%. So that was great, and we hit that goal as well. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, our next steps are always doing those monthly scorecard indicator deep dives. So taking one of these goals or perhaps two of these goals and really getting down into the details of what are we doing to address those goals, what are we doing to support it, and then answering those questions for our trustees around those monitoring questions that we use during those meetings. Typically, this is also the time where we would ask, are these still the right goals for the district? And are these the right indicators and the right goals? Excuse me. Are these the right indicators, and are these the right goals for those indicators? We recognize that this board has already started the discussion of wanting to revisit the scorecard and perhaps even develop a brand new scorecard, but there's been that commitment to readdressing this scorecard. So while we welcome that feedback now, we know that the board is also scheduled to really get deeply into what could a new scorecard potentially look like, aligned with our community values and aligned with what outcomes we want to see. So we will pause there, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, trustees, any questions about the scorecard? It's got to be at least one. I know. Yeah, I mean, and I think part of it is because we do go so in depth with these every month, and so we have already reviewed these and had in-depth conversations, very disaggregated, and I think one of the things that I am excited about with undertaking the new work this school year is to make our board monitoring reports really they've been pretty good, I would say, a lot better than what we had before, and just continue making them even more specific to our whole system and not just, very narrow pieces of it, but seeing how family engagement impacts reading scores, or how, curriculum and, all these other factors. And so we're very excited to have you, Ms. Rodriguez. Welcome. I took a picture of you. It's your first time on the dais, so you can send it to your parents or whatever. But I would like to hear from you a little bit. Like, what are some of your thoughts, and what are your hopes as we move forward in this process?
Absolutely. Thank you. Really, my hope is for us to continue the great work that we're doing. There are definitely some opportunities for us to learn from and to grow and develop in those areas. And I think with some very minor adjustment, not major changes, adjustments specifically in certain systems, getting really tight on progress monitoring, and just thinking about CCMR, using that as an example, getting really tight on our tracking, ensuring that all of our students have a graduation plan, that we're consistently developing milestones and then measuring that, because you really can't adjust or change if you're not measuring, because then we don't know what the what is behind that. And again, the great news is that we can go from good to great by just making those really small adjustments.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I wanted to ask the superintendent a little bit about, I know that in our governance meetings, we've talked a little bit about this strategic plan that you all, the district improvement plan. Can you just give us a little sneak preview or a little insight into the thought process of how you're using the scorecard to impact the work that I know we're going to go into more detail at future board meetings, but.
Sure. Yeah, so, I think one of the things that our community probably knows about me now, and certainly our team does, and I think the board does, is that, as an organization, we're going to identify initiatives that move the work. I always talk about initiatives as visions with a timeline. And, ensure that there's accountability, there's ownership between all of us in the room and elsewhere in the system to make sure that work gets done. We've talked about early literacy, we've talked about CCMR, we continue to talk about climate and culture. And, those initiatives are 18, 24-month initiatives, right? They require engagement. Many of them require board action. But we also have shorter duration efforts, and we're classifying those as projects. For instance, re-envisioning ALC, right? Something we've talked about for quite some time. That is a finite project that will require a process. We'll work with our team, work with our community, and bring that forward. Another one would be sixth grade. Evaluating the decision that was made some time ago about sixth grade within in East Austin, Martin, and Mendez middle schools, and figuring out, what were we trying to accomplish? Did we accomplish it? What needs to be done moving forward? And have a conversation around that. And so that would be something we would classify as a project as well. But again, for us, it's having the strategy, understanding the goal that we're going to accomplish, making sure that aligns with our values and the superintendent scorecard as developed with the board, and then moving the work to get it done. So all of that is being built right now. We've obviously, we know a lot, but there's still work to be done. I think the point that you made regarding monitoring and monitoring reports is really, really helpful. It's an important conversation. Trustee Kaufman, we often talk about the way that we're receiving information. Do we, are we tracking, Spanish? Are we tracking different, information data, different data sets? And right now the system is not built to do that as efficiently as it needs to be. And so once we come to an agreement and there's consensus around what those reports need to look like, we are eager to go. We recognize and agree that these things need to be updated. So we're actually very encouraged about the work that's going to occur over the next several weeks, perhaps next couple months, to make sure that we're well aligned and moving forward. But no, I think we're moving in the right direction. And I see the scorecard, and I was telling the team I'm a little anxious about it. But a lot of this stuff was done some time ago and reported out over about a year ago or 10 months ago. And so definitely room for growth, and we're excited to do it.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to actually over the next few months is being able to really look at our data again in a real systematic way to understand the biggest levers for student improvement. It's really interesting because when you actually look at our TEA accountability ratings, we actually oddly, we met the targets for English language arts. It's green check marks all the way down. It's the math where you see all the red X's. And it's so interesting because when you look at our scorecard though, it's about literacy, and literacy dominates so much of our conversation. And so, and as it should. My point is not stop doing literacy. Yeah. My point is how do we make sense of what seems to be conflicting perhaps information, because we know what we see, and we also know the research that you've got to read by third grade. That's such a huge predictor of later success. But then do we also need to bring math up to a really high level too, because that's where we're getting the red X's on TEA. So those are the deep conversations that I actually am really excited about for us to have as a board. And I think that is part of the path forward with what we're probably going to be having to do anyway. And I'm, making the most of it, I guess, the best out of it, because there are some things that we really do, can do in a way that's more focused and really like a more scientific approach, I think, in looking at the data, and then connecting that to staffing, for example, to implementation fidelity of professional development, of the availability of bilingual teachers, and the implementation of our, dual language model, and all these other things. And I'm actually super excited about that.
Yeah, President Singh, I totally agree. And one of the things I tell the team, and we've been talking about for quite some time, is, if we were to reevaluate the growth progress measures that we're using to track the probability of success within these scorecards, these goals, would we pick the same ones? Would the percent allocation per year be what it is now? And I think for us, we just need to agree and really understand the methodology before we put something out there. I can tell you that there are conversations that I've had with the team where we struggle to understand kind of how that correlation was identified, and it's difficult because it's not necessarily always a good indicator of where we'll end up. And so we're eager to take that on. I think it's timely, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Yes, Trustee Boswell.
I want to say thank you just for bringing this all in one place. And I do have a couple of questions, and do want to commend the financial team. Thank you for the work you've done and support. I think when you're taking care of our finances, that gives everyone an opportunity to take care of our students. And we've seen the impact of that this year. In having full staffing and having those highly qualified teachers who can do this super important work. So thank you for that. And I also want to say welcome, Ms. Rodriguez. Really glad you're here. And I think what I'm starting to hear in these conversations are some answers to our data prayers that we've been saying from the dais for a long time. How can you go deeper? How can you look with more nuance? How can we examine this with rigor, not just the systems overall, but at this campus, this is happening, or even in this classroom. And we're starting to, I know you're looking on all those levels so that we can find the answers that start to really change the patterns. So I would love to have a sense of, when you look overall and at so many things that we missed, kind of what your theory is of what was going on there, and how things we have already put into place are setting our students up to succeed in a different way this year.
So one of the things that I will address that I think is one of our biggest opportunities is to really ensure and make sure that the rigor of the standards is being seen in our Tier 1 instruction. That is key right there. Because if we just start from there, we think about the different layers and steps that we have to take in order to ensure that that happens. So we have to have very well supported teachers. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that the professional development that they're attending is they're actually getting the practice. It's not just a theory, but they're getting the practice and the tools that they will be able to implement during that Tier 1 instruction. So those teacher moves are super important, and they're not easy. It's not easy because in the moment you can definitely have the curriculum and you can have a menu of options, but it's the teacher that's making those decisions in the moment. So just to get into the weeds of it just a little bit, when you think about scaffolding and teachers are asking 100 questions every day, right, within a lesson, we have to support our teachers to make sure that as they are scaffolding and asking questions, or whether they're scaffolding and supporting like with activities, that it's still at the same level of rigor of where our standards are at. And so really deeply understanding when we are unpacking and we're planning for our lessons, that our teachers are very well supported and they're equipped in order to make those decisions, because they're like in the moment types of decisions. So that requires us to ensure that our professional development is allowing for time for teachers to practice, for them to build networks, and for them to actually receive feedback during professional development. And it can't be a one and done. So then how do we take that model and then we replicate it onto a campus to fit their specific needs? And I'm not talking about something that is scripted, but something that is unique and is tailored for the individual needs of our students. Because even if you think about one classroom next door to another classroom, they could be completely different. So those needs are different. So we need to give them the skill set in order to apply that into those different situations as they're teaching in Tier 1 instruction.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And I want to look a little bit at those House Bill 3 goals, just seeing it all laid out here. That gap when we have some groups of students, especially our white students, our students of 2 or more races, who really outperform the state so strongly, and students in other groups, our Hispanic students, our Black students by even a bigger margin, who really underperform our state, and the consistency of that. And I think it's really valuable to see that statewide information, when we look at it, and the story that tells. And I think, how does that fit into the planning that's ahead?
There's an opportunity also for us to look at the structure and the supports that are provided during our professional, our PLCs within the campuses. There is not one systematic approach of how we go into a PLC and what are those essential elements. In other words, when I walk into a PLC, what are the goals that we want our teachers to leave with? And it's not for us to provide them with a document for something for them to answer or a template. Again, I go back into what are the tools that are needed for, it could be questions. It could just be guiding questions on how they can best use the documents. In speaking with some of our principals and also moving forward with our principal advisory, one of the things that they have really asked for is, when we go into a PLC, how do I know that what's being discussed and what is being planned is actually going to lead to impact and to success in the classroom? That's a great question. That really is. And so I think there's an opportunity not to tell the teachers, when you go into a PLC, this is what it should look like, but definitely we should have some essential elements for them so that it's more of a guide. So that if you need support in Tier 1, or maybe you need support in small groups, they're able to make those decisions, but they actually have like a tool to support them to make sure that when they leave that PLC that they're equipped with what they need in order to support their students.
Thank you. And then I have one final question, which is about Goal 15 and the student satisfaction, which I realize is not a student outcome, but I think if students aren't satisfied, they're less likely to be engaged. They're less likely to attend. They're less likely to feel a connection to the adults who they need to trust to have that strong educational relationship. They're less likely to be present physically or emotionally or intellectually. Are we going, to Trustee Hunter's point, are we going into campuses to really dig deeper into that why? So our students can help us find those solutions? Is that work that's being done or work that's being contemplated? Or are we just hoping that will happen when we do good things?
No, we're going to be intentional about that. And we also need to look at the panorama data, but specifically look at certain questions so then that we're intentionally targeting exactly the why behind it. So I see that here we have sort of like a broad, a satisfaction. This is our students do or do not feel, satisfied or safe, but we need to actually pinpoint those actual questions so that we can be intentional about addressing that. And something that you said just sparked something that we are this is definitely an opportunity and we are going to work towards, is our goal is to have student ownership. We hear a lot about that, but student ownership really starts with the student well-being and the whole child. That needs to be part of Tier 1 instruction, not something that happens during a circle or a conversation or a discussion or separate from SEL time, let's say, but it has to be something that's in Tier 1 instruction. So if we strongly believe in that, and we do in Austin, then that needs to be part of our documents. And we also need to support teachers on how do we embed that throughout the lesson every day.
Great, thank you. And it goes back to our neuroscience and long history here. So thank you for that. I appreciate that conversation and the work. Thank you.
Any other questions from trustees? All right, well, thank
Well,
you.
Just to offer a welcome as well.
Yes. Yes, I think she deserves a round of applause. Good job. Thank you. Should we also introduce our new?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
our new livable.
Is it the time in the meeting? Sure.
I mean, well, I don't know. Is it? I'm just like, we're welcoming. I know. Can I take a personal privilege and ask you to introduce our new general counsel as well?
Absolutely. Board of Trustees, community, I'd like to formally welcome Kenneth Walker, our new general counsel. He's been with us since Monday. So he's here. He comes from Memphis, Shelby County, where he served as general counsel for several years. We're very excited to have him. He's hit the ground running. He's engaging. He's very open to having collaborative conversations, and we're very excited to have you. So thank you for being here. I told him, this is a different experience. We actually were texting just now, like, how is this different than what you've seen before? And so I'm sure I'll learn from him, and we'll all learn from him, and certainly we're excited to have you. So thank you, Mr. Walker, for being here, and we're excited to have you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so this ends the section on the information reports from the administration. So at this time, we will now move into the preview of the upcoming regular board agendas. This will allow the public and trustees the opportunity to review the agenda items that will be considered for a vote at the next regular board meeting. AISD staff is available to answer any questions for tonight's preview. So we will begin tonight with item 9, which is the agenda preview for upcoming academics and curriculum items. Trustees, are there any questions on these items? Awesome. Okay, the next section is 10, board administration. Trustees, are there any questions on these agenda items? Okay. Yes.
Only question is, if there are any changes to the terms of the proposed order, how will that appear? How will that appear to us, to the public? Because I know there's ongoing conversations or.
Yeah. Would our legal counsel please address that?
Sure. If there are any changes, I think currently we're scheduled to vote on this on the 21st of the month. We have technically until the 29th of the month, so there's plenty of space to schedule a meeting to approve or to consider any changes, and they will be uploaded into board docs just like anything else. They would be subject to public review.
Great. Thank you. All right, next we have section 11, which is business and finance. So trustees, are there any questions on these items? Yes, Secretary Boswell.
I have a question about 11.6. This has been in the news in some other communities. Thank you. In some other communities who have just chosen not to approve this. And I'm getting a lot of texts and emails and calls from people who said, these other districts have just decided not to pay recapture. Can you please share a little bit of information about what that means and what happens if we were to vote against this?
So there are currently 2 districts in the state that have voted not to pay this year's recapture payment, which occurs at the end of the year in August. And so that is Spring Branch ISD and Keller ISD. So if we as a district choose not to pay a recapture payment, there are certain criteria that TA could move forward with. One of those would be to withhold state funding. Another option they have is to detach property from the district and give it to neighboring districts. And then the final piece would be to prevent the district from adopting our tax rate.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions on this section? Okay. Next we have section 12, which is facilities. So trustees, any questions on this? All right. Next we have 13, human resources. Trustees, any questions on these items? Okay. Next we have section 14, which is policy. Any questions on these items? All right. Thanks. The next section is 15, other. Any questions on these items? Okay, thank you. So this will end our regular agenda preview. We will now recess the open meeting at 9:45 p.m. and move to executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, 551.0821, and 551.071. When we are finished with the executive session, we will briefly return to the open session to formally adjourn the meeting. The adjournment will be recorded and be included in all replays for tonight's meeting. Thank you for joining us and have a good evening. Okay, now you can talk. Thank you.
Students, the bell does not dismiss you. Please wait to be dismissed by your instructor.